Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Britton's Social Club, episode 9, if you want to call it that. Matt is not streaming once again today, so I guess I'll be streaming today. So, yeah, hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Now I'm just going to promote this around. So, I am probably not going to be glancing at the comments for a minute. So, yeah, there we go there. So hopefully everyone is doing well today. Sorry if I don't see your comments right off the bat. I am promoting this real quick. As always, the invite is open. I know a lot of people don't always take me up on that, but I'm being absolutely serious. If anyone wants to join, just let me know. I'll send you the link. You can come on in, but you don't have to. I don't want to pressure any of you guys. You all are my beloved audience. I don't want to risk alienating you guys. So no pressure, of course. No. Okay. Well, if someone don't like it, they can tell me. All right. There we go. Fuck. No. Why? Also, you can just find it on my Discord. So you can join my Discord. It's in the announcements segment. So or section, I should say. Sorry, I'm kind of multitasking here, as I always do before these things. So just gonna do that. So yeah, there we go. Yes, hopefully everyone is doing well today. Raph might be joining in. I've sent some invites to some other friends of mine on the BookTube sphere, so maybe they'll join as well. We'll see. But again, just doing my thing over here. So yeah, let me just scratch my nose real quick. There we go. There we go. It's kind of a hassle, believe it or not. Oh yeah, okay. There we go there. And there we go. All right. I have shared it basically everywhere at this point. So people can just join on in. How's it going, Michael? Glad to hear from you. Doing all right. Hopefully everyone's doing good today. Never read the comments. Oh, stop it. There we go. So, actually, let me just lift my chair up here. Ugh. All right. Hopefully everyone's doing well. I'm doing pretty good. It's October, so I usually like to do the spoopathon at that time, which is, where I basically just read a bunch of horror throughout the month. So can't really say too much about that. So I'm also gonna turn on my fan. It's a little warm in here. Hopefully none of you guys can hear that. It's always something yeah. Didn't have church today, and also I didn't really have much else to do. So yeah, here we are. And also Matt is not having his thing today, so here I am doing the social club. Well, that's good. I'm glad you can't hear the fan. That's nice. Hello again, Michael. I'm just chilling. Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm reading a couple horror books. I'm reading The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter, which is very beautifully written, I'll say. And also a book from a friend of mine, Mr. Tyler James, that's Beneath the Jack-o'-lantern Sky, which I'm enjoying. I also read a comic called Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees the other night, which I thought was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And now I'm going to restart once again Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire. So yeah, I'm just, I'm going to be reading a bunch of horror throughout the month, and it's probably going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. I'm also going to be basically talking about horror throughout the month. So if you're a fan of horror stuff, then, well, you could drop by my channel for the entirety of the month. So yeah. Oh dear. Well, glad to hear you can't hear the fan. That's wonderful, because in all honesty, that would have sucked. Not sucked. It would have been kind of annoying, but sometimes I turn it off because I get all paranoid. People are going to be like, I hear a fan in the background. And I don't really have the editing skills to... Oop. Hopefully more people will join in soon. Tharno, what horror comics do you have on the horizon? I'm curious. But yes, I've been busy. Also taking a break from A Brief History of Seven Killings. I tried to finish it during the month of September, but that didn't pan out very well. So yeah, probably gonna finish it in November. So should be fine. And then after that, I'm gonna be doing my last big read of the year, which will be Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov, which that will be a lot of fun. This is my second Nabokov book. My first one, of course, was Lolita, which is one of my favorite books of all time. So yeah, has a lot to live up to for sure. And I've had people who like oh, very nice. Some good comics you got there. I couldn't get into From Hell though. So good luck with From Hell. It's one of Alan Moore's more dense works, I would say. So not really one. I mean, don't expect it to be like a murder mystery. It's more of a exploration of the society that created Jack the Ripper, if you want to call it that. So I guess it's more of an investigation into the society, really, than the actual murder. which is a thing. I've only read one manhwa, and that's it's one called Bastard. It's about this kid who lives with his dad, who's a psychotic murderer, serial killer, and basically kind of the weird life he has. Well, I've already read Sandman, but yes, there are some spooky stories with Sandman, particularly like 24-Hour Diner. That's a pretty messed up one. It's funny. That's funny you mentioned that, because I was actually talking with my friend Shay last night on actually the video I'm going to be uploading on Wednesday will actually be about the great horror comic, which is Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing, which if you've read The Sandman, I highly recommend picking up Saga of the Swamp Thing, because you'll notice that Neil Gaiman got many of his ideas and many of the things he would play with in The Sandman from Saga of the Swamp Thing. But even then, I think it's a great series. I think it's one of Alan Moore's best. So, take a grain of salt with that. I mean, in Alan Moore's run, there's some pretty spooky stories. I mean, if you don't believe that, I can't really... I mean, it is technically a superhero, I guess, but there's definitely horror elements. Like, there's the one where Etrigan shows up, and it's pretty disturbing. So, yeah. Witches is also really good by Scott Snyder, if you want a good horror comic as well. But yeah. But I have some good news that we have another guest. We have guests. We have a general guest, a friend of the channel, guy I'm glad to call a good friend. You know him, you love him. Raph, how you doing, man?
Hello, how are you doing? I'm sorry, my voice is a bit fucked for reasons.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you weren't kidding when you said your voice was kind of shot from heavy metal. Damn.
Yeah, I was at the Keep It True Rising Festival for the last 3 days, and that involved some heavy-duty singing. Apparently, there's like video of that online. If you really want to see me without a shirt in like the front row of an Atlantean Codex concert, I guess now you can.
Well,
I'm not recommending
when
that.
Raph takes his shirt off, when Raph takes his shirt off, you know it's serious.
I'm always serious. That's kind of the problem. Anyway, I guess it's just another excuse for me to actually drink something to sort of soothe my throat.
Ooh, yeah.
Cheers, my friend.
Ooh, yeah. Never gets old. But yeah, we're talking about all the stuff we're reading. We're talking about the stuff we're going through in October. So I've been kind of... I don't know if you've read Angela Carter, Raph, but Bloody Chamber... It's pretty good.
I have read Angela Carter in the past, yes. Both some of her fairy tale retelling stuff like Bloody Chamber, but also some of her nonfiction reporting stuff. I'm weird that way.
Yeah, it's really... Yeah, I'm kind of interested. She actually writes very, like good. It's kind of erotica at points, actually, which...
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of a running gag on this... I feel like we can't really go into this show without either talking about like politics, genocide, or like erotica. One of those three things are going to get brought up in this show.
I mean, it's what makes the world go round, I guess.
That I actually want to read her Desaad book. I think it's called like The Saudian Woman. I have a friend who really loved that book, and his review was really good. And I'm like, oh man, I'll have to read that at some point. Just haven't gotten around.
I think it might help to actually also read some secondary literature, so you understand where she's coming from. I mean, I'm not recommending you read actual Desaad because it's
I was like, I'm always been kind of hesitant to read Desaad. I've heard his stuff gets real messed up.
He's kind of interesting in where he's located, sort of like in the history of like philosophy and the Enlightenment in some ways. So that is interesting, which is why he kind of also shows up in Terra Ignota by Ada Palmer.
I was about to
Because
say,
obviously,
I think even the Reign of Terror imprisoned him because they thought he was too much of a freak. I'm like, damn.
yeah.
If those guys think you're too extreme, oh man. Though I could be wrong on that, so I don't know. Again, I don't know if the Reign of Terror was a genocide, but once again, we're talking about mass murder.
Yeah. No, like he's interesting in like yeah, as I said, like in his impact, sort of like on the late and radical Enlightenment in some ways, like um noted supporter of all things conservative, Theodor Adorno wrote about him in Dialectics of Enlightenment. I mean, obviously Adorno and Horkheimer together did do that, so I'm not exactly fans of Desaad either. So there you have it. Maybe you'll actually agree with Adorno, become a
What
cultural Marxist and everything.
I was about to say, well, wasn't Desaad one of those like edge lords back in the days? Like, hey, rape, kind of based, and everyone was like,
Um,
no.
Desaad, certainly, you could see him definitely as a bit of an edgelord. I guess you can definitely put that label on him. There's ideas on like how to sort of like break every kind of convention, and whether that's good or bad, and it's complicated. Definitely an interesting character though.
Yeah, no. Oh man, it's Veronica Schnoes. I don't know who this is.
If Veronica Shanos recommends the Sadian Woman, then that must be a good thing, because the stuff I've read of hers, which is Burning Girls and Other Stories, it's a collection of fairy tale retellings, is absolutely brilliant and excellent, and very angry, and all kinds of other really cool shit.
You know what else is a fairy tale retelling is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, it's really interesting. It kind of is a discussion on like how fairy tales treats women, while also kind of being this weird amalgamation of like modern and like historical settings, if you will.
Yeah, like
It's very strange.
what I found interesting is like I've been reading Italo Calvino's Italian folk tales, which is sort of like his collection and of fairy tales or folk tales, and it's really interesting to see sort of like those, because most of them are like really short, like a couple of pages only, and then it's really interesting to see sort of like motifs that you know from like either Grimm's or the French fairy tale retellings, and see how they kind of change in weird ways when you come to different countries. And so I've learned a lot of really interesting and weird things
Oh, John.
from that book.
Yeah, no, it's there's also another book of hers. I think it's called like The Infernal Machine of Dr. Hoffman or something like that. And I know Jeff Vandermeer noted that as a massive inspiration for his own work. So I'm like, hey, if an author I like recommends this, I'll have to check this out at some point. But I don't know if it's gonna be any good. But yeah.
That sounds like something I might want to check out indeed, Ori, because Angela Slatter has been on my list of people I need to check out. And then there is, of course, Amal Al-Mutar's upcoming collection of fairy tale-ish short stories, which is coming like next year in like April, I think. March or April, something like that. It's on my list of stuff I'm going to read immediately, because her The River Has Roots was absolutely brilliant as another fairy tale retelling, or in this case a folk song retelling.
Just a lot of fairy tale retellings.
Yeah, because because I feel like because they are such sort of like fundamental sort of like stories that have such a lot of like
Hello, Mac.
Deep sort of like cultural cachet, like the same way that you have like a lot of like Greek or classical myth retellings. Those stories are just like so deeply embedded in our consciousness that like everyone knows them, so you can do the retelling and people will understand what you are doing with your retelling, because they kind of know the basis the basic story already, right? You can do a fairy tale retelling, like people will understand fucking Sleeping Beauty, right? You don't
I see
need
what you
to
did
do.
there, Mitch. He said, never mind. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just well, there's two two Beauty and the Beast retellings in this. One of them is really good. I really liked the Tiger Bride. I thought that was a good story. I liked how it was written, I should say. I mean, if there's one thing I can say about Angela Carter that I really appreciate, the woman, I think, is a stylist, and what I mean by this is she's very good. She's a very good prose stylist. So there you go. If you love like lush, very like dark wine type of language, give this puppy a crack. Like it's a good book. Or I'm enjoying it anyway. And also, if you're a fan of stuff like Susanna Clark, or people like Susanna Clark, or even Neil Gaiman, and want something a little in that kind of threshold, Bloody Chamber, I think is well worth the read. At least so far. I'm only about 3 stories in.
No, Bloody Chamber is definitely, it's a classic for a reason, right? A lot of writers have cited Angela Carter as like an influence over the years as well. So it's the kind of stuff that you read Bloody Chamber and realize that it's really good, but you also recognize sort of like its influence and all kinds of other stuff that you read as well. And go like, oh, I see what they have done there. I know what they have read.
Oh, that's where Neil Gaiman got some of his ideas. I see you. No, but really it's quite like, if you're a fan of stuff like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, for instance, that isn't like Blood in the Mist, yeah, Bloody Chamber would be a good one. Very similar, I think, in they're kind of like sisters in a way.
Yeah, no, I did finish reading The Contrarian today, which is a biography of Peter Thiel, who is
I thought that
bit of a
might be
dick.
I thought that might be a biography of Christopher Hitchens, because
No,
it seems like an appropriate title.
No, The Contrarian is a biography of Peter Thiel. It's from 2021 by keep forgetting his name. The author, something Chafkin, maybe Alex. I might be getting the name wrong because
I will say, Mac, good luck with LA Confidential. It's a fantastic book, but I would say I will say that the language can take some getting used to. I'll say, because it's very stripped back, I should say. Yeah, I have a very, I've mentioned Hitchens before. I have a very, I don't want to say love-hate relationship, because I don't know if I necessarily love him, but I do appreciate his diction and rhetoric. I think can be appreciated. Even though if you read something like God is Not Great and you realize this guy has no fucking idea what he's talking about. Now, if it's something like The Trial of Henry Kissinger or his literary criticism, I'm like, oh, this guy actually has some sense. He also inspired Reddit internet atheists, so I mean, that's not really, I don't know if that's a great legacy to leave behind, but there's the good.
The whole internet atheist kind of thing. I really don't want to look up what Daniel Dennett's been up to in recent years, because like he always felt like the one not completely insane person out of that group. But like, obviously Hitchens' great luck was that he passed away before he could become like as like completely out of whack as like both Dawkins and Sam Harris have become over the years. And I have no idea what Daniel is up to at this point, but
hey, I'll talk shit about him even though he's dead, because hey, he was totally not above that. So I mean,
no, of course, I mean,
he seemed kind of like a dickhead, to be honest with you. I don't know if I would have, I probably would have liked to have like an interview. He seemed like he might have been a good interview, but I probably wouldn't have wanted to be a friend with the guy, because good God, he's super argumentative all the time. It would be really hard to deal with this person.
Hey, Kale, how you doing down there in
How's it going, Kale?
the Antipodes? I think
Yeah,
my
I've heard
next
that
big book.
too. I've heard he was generally like an all right guy, like when he wasn't like debating people. But yeah, no, I don't know. He kind of rubs me the wrong way. Let's say.
I mean, that's kind of part of his persona, right? Was to be obnoxious.
Which is hilarious. It's kind of funny. His brother is a very similar way, except he's on the other side. Excuse me.
Somehow that does not surprise me, Ori, if that's true. But
He was
I feel
so
like
Dennett was chasing underage tail. That's not good.
the problem with like Dennett, not with Dennett, like with the whole Epstein thing is that of course he did have like a lot of power brokering outside of that as well. So I don't put it past like any of these people to be pedophiles. That's not my point. But like just because someone hung out with Epstein doesn't mean automatically that he also did that, because Epstein did all kinds of stuff beyond just that one thing. But obviously, because that is so fucking monstrous, everyone is like, oh, clearly that's the thing that happened there. But could be.
Wait, is Peter Thiel gay?
Peter Thiel is gay, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the famous story. Like Peter Thiel funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker because Gawker Media did actually out Peter Thiel as gay.
Oh,
and then revenge, he destroyed Gawker Media.
Mac read For Whom the Bell Tolls, which I haven't read because I've only read Old Man in the Sea from Hemingway, which I really liked. I thought it was a great book. I like Hemingway's economy, if you will, if you know what I mean. Like he's very, like, I mean, as a journalist myself, I've kind of grown to appreciate it more over the years because he's very stripped back. He's very simple.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. My dad and I were talking about this the other day. He's like, he just like he would slave over the exact word.
yeah.
He would use. I'm like, that's nice. I don't know if I'm that thorough, unfortunately.
I think it kind of
Just don't have the
depends. There are
patience
some
for it.
authors where you can tell that like every individual word has been picked exactly for that effect, and it's a very specific style of narrative, right?
Also,
and there's other books where you don't need to do that. Like Stephen King does not do that, because Stephen King, outside of The Gunslinger, is not a good writer. He's a great storyteller, but he's not a good writer, I would argue. Like he doesn't do a lot of interesting things with language.
Okay, I'll give you that. I was about to say, you watch your slander about Stephen King.
No, like that's kind of always
I think
like,
even King would agree with you on that.
Yeah,
so.
he's a good storyteller. He has like great story ideas, and that's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether Stephen King tells me a story like while we're sitting around like a campfire, or he actually writes the thing down and makes me read the whole thing. There is no big difference. But there are authors where you can tell that like every word, Cormac McCarthy, I guess, is one of those authors where you go like, yeah, clearly every word in The Road was picked exactly for its effect at that specific point.
Well, I was about to say with like Cormac McCarthy, like if you want like the good ideas of where he kind of got his style from, it's either like William Faulkner, Moby Dick, and Ernest Hemingway, especially towards the end of his life when he was doing that very like sparse, direct style and stuff like The Road. I haven't read The Passenger or Stella Maris yet, but I've heard he kind of uses that same style in those books.
I think both are really good. Stella Maris is really, really, really rough, though. Like hard to read. It's very dark, is what it is.
Oh, I thought you meent like, because I'm like, isn't it just like a stage play, kind of in a sense, where it's just two people talking?
Yeah, they're it's basically the interviews of the psychiatrist with a patient. So that's basically just the transcript of those interviews, and they obviously end with her taking her own life. So you can see where the whole thing is going.
Hello.
It's not a good place.
Hello, Mikhail. If you noticed, I sent you a message on God damn it, on Discord if you'd like to join in. But yes, Steve Donahue rather infamously dislikes Cormac McCarthy, which, you know, I think is kind of hilarious. And I'll be honest, I think some of it is for not effect, but I do think some of it is a bit exaggerated. Like the other day I watched his I rewatched his episode of Chatting with Nuts he did with Jimmy. Yeah, thank you. And he mentioned that his problems with McCarthy, which kind of I snickered because I could literally go through something like Blood Meridian and disprove what he was saying.
Yeah.
That's kind of the interesting thing about Steve Donahue. Like he's a very bright guy. He's very intelligent and insightful in many ways. And then there's parts where he's just like, what the hell are you thinking? Kind of like Christopher Hitchens, actually, in a similar sense.
And yeah, Max Garfield, you're right. The fact that both Thiel and Musk grew up in South Africa, in apartheid South Africa, does actually, is an interesting factoid. Although with Thiel, it's even weirder because Thiel did not necessarily grow up in South Africa, but actually grew up in Namibia, which was occupied by South Africa at the time, while his dad, Peter Thiel's dad, was building a uranium mine for South Africa because South Africa wanted to get nuclear weapons. And
oh man,
yeah, it is all really bad.
Like, glad you're here, though.
Peter Thiel is a very evil person and comes from an incredibly evil household. And I feel I, as a fellow German who lives an hour away from his birthplace, I can call him a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, but I mean, I haven't really paid attention to Peter Thiel or Elon Musk for that matter, because all honesty, I'd prefer to ignore Elon Musk, which, might just say something about me. But, in all honesty, I'm not that I avoid politics. It's kind of hard when you go on Twitter and you see people going like, oh my God, Charlie Kirk got shot, stuff like that. But yeah, I try to talk and think about things that don't frustrate me so much.
Yeah. So, did you actually go and see One Battle After Another by now, Britton?
I haven't gotten to it yet. No, okay. I need to see it, but I do have Vineland over there. I do want to read it. But yeah, some people are commenting on Steve Donahue. I'm actually hoping to have him on my podcast at some point in the near future. I've emailed him a couple times, and he's been very friendly with me. But but yeah, no, he's an interesting channel because in some ways he's very insightful and quite brilliant. In other ways, he's very frustrating. Particularly when it comes to Cormac McCarthy. I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
He also doesn't like Philip K. Dick. I'm like, that cynical cocksucker. Which, you know what? I can understand that though, because I get PKD can be kind of rough for some people.
Yeah, I think like the difference is usually is like, are you just talking about your personal tastes, or are you making like general statements about quality and so forth? Because if you don't like Philip K. Dick, that is totally fine. But if you style yourself sort of like an expert on fantasy and science fiction, and you start to make like general claims about, say, Philip K. Dick, that's a very different sort of like project that you're engaging in. And at that point, you need to be, you need to acknowledge the importance of someone like Philip K. Dick for like the genre in general. And that is, he's still like Dick can be insanely frustrating to read, but it's clearly, he's clearly a smart writer who did some very interesting things that have changed like the field in general since then.
I thought you really liked The Road, Mikhail. I know he likes Mason and Dixon by Thomas Pynchon. I'm like, ooh, the way he's described Mason and Dixon, I'm like, I want to fucking read it, but I'm like, I want to read Vineland first, or some of his like easier books. I actually want to reread Inherent Vice at some point because I don't know if I gave it the proper crack that I felt it deserved.
I think it's a really. I feel like it's probably. I've said this before, obviously, like when we talked about it. I think it's the most accessible Pynchon is so far, at least. I would argue is Inherent Vice because it is, with a detective story, it has a straightforward plot you can follow. Same goes obviously for Crying of Blood 49, but I felt that one is a bit more all over the place, and Inherent Vice is a bit easier. But who knows? I'm gonna read Shadow Ticket on Tuesday. I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I mean I don't like if you don't like McCarthy, that's totally fine. Like, or if you're kind of like thrown off because he doesn't use punctuation or whatever, that's fine. Like, I don't really care. But what kind of bugs me about Steve, or sometimes I just find it hilarious because he just doubles down. But like he said I just very very close to what he said is like he has no plot and he has no characters is what he said. And I'm like, that's definitely not true. If you read Blood Meridian, there is definitely incident. It meanders, but there is definitely incident. So that's just not true. So that's not an opinion. That is a verifiable fact.
It also does have characters.
And it does have characters too.
There's a judge. There's a judge or so I've heard.
Yes. There's also 2 Jacksons and some other guys, That's cool.
Toadvine.
No, anyway, yeah. But yeah, no, it's kind of it's
Oh yeah, Castle of Otranto is not a very good book, but it does have a massive helmet, which is very deadly.
Didn't Liam read that recently? Or about a year ago?
I am 100% sure that Liam has read it. I don't think I've watched Liam's video on it, but I'm sure that Liam has read Castle of Otranto. It's it is a book where someone is trying out something very new and clearly doesn't necessarily the idea of the Gothic novel hasn't developed at that point. You need to go to like a couple of stuff that is coming shortly after that for these kind of for Gothic sort of like to become a thing. And Otranto does have some weird sort of like plot points where you're like, I don't understand why this is in the book. And clearly the author also didn't understand why he was putting that in there, including the fucking helmet.
Though I will excuse me. Max Garfield says one battle after another was great fun, though not the movie of the century, as some have argued. I
would also not call it the movie of the century, but it definitely was a lot of fun. I felt that
I saw the trailer where Benicio del Toro and Leonardo DiCaprio are he's giving him nunchucks, I think, and he goes, "Thank you, Sensei, thank you," and then he goes, "Viva la Revolution!" and he leaves. I just thought that was hilarious. I don't know why.
Generally their interactions between Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro are incredibly funny. That stuff is really, really funny. No, it's a good book and a good novel, a good movie, and the way it does sort of like take stuff from Vineland and transport it into the present, I think it works really well.
Yeah, Mitch says, I read a PKD biography and came away thinking he was closer Alex Jones than a great mind, which I can kind of see that. I know that I'll say this. He was definitely mentally ill. I don't know exactly what it was, but he was definitely mentally ill. And also the rampant drug use probably didn't help that. But, if you read something like Ubik or A Scanner Darkly, I think he is really great.
I mean, I don't know which PKD biography you've read. I think he clearly was an incredibly talented writer. He definitely struggled with mental health issues. He also took a lot of drugs, which genuinely does not necessarily help with mental health struggles, or so I've been told. And that's the kind of stuff you learn. He then like takes and turns it into a Scanner Darkly, which is brilliant. No, High Weirdness is one of those books that I read last year by, I need to look up the name, Eric something is the author, Eric Davis, possibly Eric Davis. And it's a book looking at, well, Philip K. Dick, Terence McKenna, and Robert Anton Wilson, and how their specific approach to psychedelic culture and so forth has influenced politics, literature, and so forth, and so forth. Yeah, weird guys, all of them. And
you know what I want to read? I want to read Astounding from what's that dude's name? It's like Alec Navoda Lee or something like that, which is basically like the biography of all the people who did, or it's kind of it's the story of all the people who were involved in the golden age of science fiction. So like, and just how freaking weird they were. People like, Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and Robert Heinlein. And, you're just like, man, you notice when you read about these figures in science fiction, a lot of them were fucking weird. Like some of them were really fucking out there. So it wasn't like PKD was alone in that.
No, I think with PKD, it's just that it's very, very clearly sort of represented in his writing in a way that you don't necessarily find the weirdness or the potential pedophilia in Arthur C. Clarke's writing, because the weirdness is separated. Same goes for, well, I mean, with Robert Heinlein, it's a bit depends on the book. His books definitely get weirder the older he gets. There's some weird shit happening in later books, and
that's why I say you can stop at. I was about to say that's why I say you can stop at Stranger with a Strange Land.
Stranger in a Strange Land definitely is important and interesting. I feel The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, I think, is probably sort of like peak Heinlein in a lot of ways, where you get like the good stuff of Heinlein.
I have a deep soft spot for Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I was about to say I have a deep soft spot for Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
I think it works for Heinlein because it is sort of like he still does more like hard sci-fi in a lot of ways, but it's not as over the top military bullshit as Starship Troopers.
Yeah, he's not jerking off over the military industrial complex.
And it's not yet as out there and weird as Stranger in the Strange Land and stuff after that. It's sort of like in that weird middle point between Starship Troopers and Stranger in the Strange Land, in that you have those long-term marriages on the moon that I keep forgetting the name.
How's it going, Dimitri? And Ben is also here. Hello, everyone. Glad to see more people are showing up. L. Ron.
Oh, yeah,
L. Ron Hubbard is another... He's way beyond the pale. He's not even just weird, because I hate Scientology. I think Scientology is a fucking awful organization, and just a terrible. I'm generally not this dismissive towards religions, but like, I think Scientology is legitimately a fucking scam. Like, it really is. It's also a delving into the insane mind of L. Ron Hubbard. So, I mean, that's kind of why it fascinates me as well, because it is kind of a delving into the insane mind of L. Ron Hubbard.
The really fun part about like L. Ron Hubbard being like one of the funniest people to learn about, because this is like nothing that man didn't try,
which like
and succeed at like most of the things, which is ridiculous, right? Like the whole thing of like him starting his own like Sea Org, his own like navy to sail around like
the
Mediterranean.
Yeah, a fucking maniac.
But do you know the part where he was doing sex magic to get parses? That is like, it's the thing is like,
I don't believe I have, actually.
Yes, but also a lot of fun to learn about in the past. Like luckily, I've not been touched by his life in any way or form, which is
Tharnell.
Which allows me to have fun with it.
I honestly just feel bad for John Travolta at this point, because again, I'm generally like, if I ever met a Scientologist, I would probably be very nice to them. It would be very difficult, I'll admit, but I would probably be very nice to them. I'd be very courteous. It would be teeth clenched, I will admit, because I fucking hate Scientology. But I still would be nice to them. But I think the Scientology is a fucking scam. it is a pyramid scheme. Like, it legit is. Like, oh god. And Tom Cruise, like, he's just fucking weird. Like, I respect him. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, I respect him because, like, that dude will push himself further than many other actors. But I mean, physically more than, like, his acting ability. I wouldn't say he's like Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's I think I have heard of Oscar Peterson Demidrak, but going back to but yeah, it's like if you've ever read Going Clear, which I highly recommend, it was definitely the book that convinced me that Scientology was a fucking horrible organization that is a scam, has hurt millions of people. Maybe not millions of people. That might be exaggeration, but it's hurt a lot of people. And it's disgusting. It genuinely is. It's one of those moments I'm like, I wish we had like an exemption in the First Amendment so we could fucking take these dudes to task. That is how much I fucking hate Scientology. So yeah, I like it. I love it, Raph. We're really going into the controversial hot button topics today.
I feel like I think what is interesting though about like Scientology or Dianetics before that, I think to me is that is a very sort of like a symptom of like the weird like 1950s sort of like science history, and you have like the whole like overlap with science fiction, obviously Hubbard being a science fiction writer before doing all the other stuff, and what's his face, John W. Campbell being like a huge fan of Dianetics, and it's that weird.
Campbell was another fucking weirdo. Like that's also kind of why I'm fascinated with Scientology as well, is because of its connection to science fiction. Because L. Ron Hubbard started as a science fiction writer, not a particularly good one, but a very imaginative one.
And it's like, I don't know if you've ever read The Morning of the Magicians by I keep forgetting, two French guys. So who cares? And it's also from like the Jacques Berger, and I keep forgetting the other guy. Anyway, point is, you have this like weird moment in like the late 1940s, early 1950s, where people are sort of very clearly like both like in grifters like Hubbard and serious people and just plain old insane people in the middle, sort of like assume that the powers of the mind are actually much greater than we might think. And now that we've started to do like psychology for the first time, which is, at that point was still fucking Jung and Freud and not exactly what you might call clinical psychology of today or whatever, but people have sort of like discovered the human mind as this amazing thing that we are now studying, and so people are expecting it to go all kinds of crazy places. And Dianetics and from then on, like Scientology kind of goes exactly into that specific sort of like fits right in there, because it starts building itself not as a religion, but starts out as sort of like more like a self-help kind of thing. It's like, yeah, you can train your mind and then you can do all these amazing things.
Kind of bringing this full circle to Paul Thomas Anderson. One of my favorite films from him is called The Master, and it's very much a take on Scientology, even though they don't say it's what it is. Like, it definitely is Scientology. It's also just an amazing film. One of my favorite like friendships in film, even though it's a very dysfunctional, all sorts of toxic friendship on both sides, not just because Joaquin Phoenix's character is a lunatic.
Yeah. Okay, but to bring it back to the to Paul Thomas Anderson, One Battle After Another, like one of the things that I really appreciated about it is very much an incredibly well crafted movie, beyond all the like plot and writing or whatever. Like the way it is built, the way the sound design, the way the soundtrack interacts with the scenes, with the plot and so forth. All of these elements are incredibly carefully crafted in a way that a lot of sort of like large sort of like blockbuster movies, and it's easy to go and shit on like Marvel movies or whatever, but like a lot of like big budget movies of the last couple of years that I've seen don't necessarily take that level of care with like all these other bits, because it's like, yeah, we'll get a Hans Zimmer soundtrack, we'll just turn it up really, really loud, and that's gonna do that part for us, and we're gonna have some big explosions and probably render them in there, and then that's gonna take care of that part. But like one battle after another did feel very carefully crafted as like a whole piece of art, and not just doing like cool stage design or set design or one cool thing, but like doing everything in a cool way. That is unfortunately very rare these days. So that alone makes it a very good movie. It's like Paul Thomas Anderson clearly knows what he's doing, and he clearly takes a lot of care to make sure that the whole thing works out.
Yeah, I mean, I still need to see it at some point, but yeah, no, but going back to Master, yeah, if anyone is interested in like Scientology and how cults work and all that, I would highly recommend watching The Master. Though it can be kind of a hard movie to sit through at times because it gets very uncomfortable. Actually was watching clips from There Will Be Blood the other day, which Alex is quoting.
Yeah,
I think you would like that movie, Raph. It's a very scathing
which one?
indictment.
There Will Be Blood. Yes, I know that.
I was about to say, I think you would like that. It's a very scathing indictment of capitalism.
It's also like, unfortunately, like a very, very close to the actual historical events that it portrays. So if it is a scathing indictment of capitalism, that is not because Paul Thomas Anderson is putting his thumb on the scale there. That is very much because that specific form of capitalism was really, really bad back then.
Still it's my second favorite film of all time. Like, I genuinely think it's peerless. I really, I mean, No Country for Old Men came out that same year and it won the Academy Award, which yeah, it deserved it. But man, like 2007 was a great year for movies.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the point. It's like both of them are fucking amazing, and yeah, those were both in the same year. So, what you gonna do?
We have another guest coming in.
Ooh, nice.
And it is Joe Byrne. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Joe. How you doing? Back from the hinterlands of Europe, Joe. Did you survive the Danube?
I learned that I like Bavarian beer.
That is a good choice.
Yeah,
I mean, I like it like.
We've just been talking shit about. I'm sorry.
They go to Czech beer, like, oh, Czech beer has this extra whatever flavor to it. I'm like, I don't like it. I like the Bavarian beer, and I learned this while singing Bavarian drinking songs that may have been made up by the host of our little drinking party. I don't really know because I have no context, but apparently I had like 9 beers in like an afternoon, and I don't remember that much of it, but.
But like if you're in Bavaria, probably you had like some of the Helles, the light beer, which is a very good, like a very drinkable one. And when it says light in the sense of the color, not of like the punch that it packs, it has like the same amount of alcohol as any other beer. It just like is a lighter color.
I like those beers. We started with those, and we ended up with the double something like that. I don't know what it was.
Oh,
it was very dark. Yeah, thank you. And we ended with those. So we sort of we did the rainbow of beers in the non-gay sense of rainbow.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask how your journey to Germany was. I'm like, oh, did you run into RAF while you were in the fatherland?
Sadly, I was like 8 hours from RAF, and because I was on a cruise, there's really very little like discretion in terms of where you're going to be and for how long. Like I had like an hour in Passau where like if RAF someone could have visited and like we could have met for that hour, but that to take an 8-hour trip each way to meet me for 45 minutes in a pub in Passau makes no sense.
That is unfortunately true.
Yeah, no, it would have made no sense.
Yeah, I was in Würzburg over the weekend, so almost even closer.
Oh yeah, but we did Regensburg and Passau. That was the German place.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, this was after 3 days in Prague, which was lovely.
Prague is also very nice. Did you go up to the cathedral? Of course you did go up to the St. Vitus Cathedral, right?
I think so. We were I don't know if we were in the cathedral. We were in a lot of cathedrals where they all blend together after about a week. Because we were in our hotel. So in Prague, they've got like the palace and the castle, and one is inside the other, and I can't remember which is which. We did tours of both. But we were in a hotel basically at the foot of that building.
Oh yeah.
It's an old monastery, Saint I want to say Augustine, but I'm not sure about that. It might be Saint Andrew, something like that. It's an old monastery. They turned it into a hotel, which was delightful, really nice hotel, very premium, more than I usually spend on hotels.
Yeah.
But the monks there had brewed their own beer
Yeah.
for a long time.
Forever. Yeah.
So they sold the recipe to the hotel. So now the hotel works with a brewery and they make this beer, and you can only get it at the hotel. You have to go to their restaurant or stay in their rooms, and you can get bottles of their beer. And it was a darker beer, but it was actually quite delightful. I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, like Prague has like so many like small like house breweries, like so many like restaurants that have like their own beer. There's a wonderful one if you go up like right up like at the top of the hill, or right when above the castle before you enter like the whole like castle complex, basically.
Yeah.
There's another like monastery kind of place where I spent a long afternoon drinking beers on my way to Písek in further down in Bohemia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been to Prague a couple of times. It's a nice city.
And then we did the trick of we needed dinner on our own one night, so we went to this place like in the basement, like around the corner from the hotel, but it was a place where everyone in there was speaking Czech, watching a football game. Right? Like the menu, it was still close enough to the Charles Bridge that the menu was in English and people spoke English, but none of the people eating there did. Right? They were all like locals. And the menu was like super simple. We just had I like schnitzel, and they had like roast duck, and it's a very American thing. You don't get roast duck in pubs in this country. It's like an elevated dish in America. I don't think it's in Czechia. I don't think it is.
And no, it's like in Czech, like Czech cuisine, like the same as some of like the eastern part of Germany and southeast of Bavaria as well. Like duck with red cabbage and dumplings is like a very obviously it's not cheap, but it's very much sort of like home style cooking kind of thing. It's like a very that kind of stuff.
You don't get that in America, right? In America, duck is something you get at a more elevated restaurant only. Yeah. You won't get it in like a pub. So it was delicious. It was like perfectly cooked duck. It was perfect. Yeah. The schnitzel was like plain, but it was amazing. It was the best schnitzel I've ever had. It was just perfectly cooked. Like nothing special about it. So it was a lovely trip.
And that's like the other part there. It's like Czech Republic and Hungary and Austria and in Germany in that regard. Like we're very good at like meat. Like when it comes to cooking meat, that is something that like there is a long tradition of making, turning animals into food.
Yeah. Well, neither of us are vegetarian, so that worked out.
That helps, yeah.
I mean, everywhere we went, they were just serving sausages with everything, which I was happy with. But I mean, like if we brought we didn't bring my stepdaughter, but if we had, she's vegetarian. It would have been challenging. She doesn't drink. She's vegetarian. I don't know what she would have done anywhere we went, but it was delicious.
I mean, there's vegetarian options there. You just need to know which ones they are. No.
They make them, and it's a modern cruise line. They have to make sure there's vegetarian options everywhere you go.
Probably you get like something like Käsespätzle, for example, which is sort of a German version of homemade pasta with like lots of cheese on it, for example. And you can
like Spätzle.
You can add bacon to that, but you don't have to. So that's usually like a safe local kind of vegetarian option.
Yeah. So
sounds like you had fun, Joe. I
did. Probably the best. Yeah. I mean, it's a river cruise. The interesting part was it was harder to get away from politics on the cruise. It's a smaller ship, so it's like fewer, like 180 passengers, and it's designed that you have to be with other people. So like at dinner time, the tables were tables for 8 or 10. There's like almost no tables for 2. So everyone comes in couples, but you have to sit with other people.
Yeah.
And you very quickly learn to suss out these little, I'm fascinated by the things people say that are political, the way that they give away their politics without being too contentious. Like I said next to this woman and she's like, oh, I like to garden. I live in New Jersey. I raise a lot of native plants because they use less water than like grass. And I'm like, okay, you're a Democrat.
Very,
Like
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
right? Like you're talking about gardening, but the way you put it, I'm just like, I know who you voted for in every election for the last 20 years. I know
Yeah.
your position on almost every like
Yeah.
topic, right? We're done. Like I'm good. Like I now I've sussed it out. And then you're somewhere else and like someone's looking at the homeless people and he's like, "Oh, I don't know why there's homeless people here. There's still plenty of jobs available." And I'm like, "Yep. I know I know your politics too. We're good. Like we're set." So it's very
Yeah.
funny how these things that I feel like I wasn't aware of this when I was younger. I didn't
Yeah.
jump to those conclusions the way I do lately. I don't know if it's because I'm older or because times have changed. It's very hard to say because I've only been this age in these times.
I think it's a combination of both, probably.
Yeah.
Like, because on the one hand, you have sort of like the divide between Democrat and Republican has become more has become starker over time, and these
I think
positions
so.
have become so locked in, especially by virtue of turning it all into like a fucking culture war and everything, right?
Yeah.
The right in
Yeah.
particular has suddenly doing the whole thing about like raising native plants because they're take less water than grass. That is something that would not have been like a specifically democratically coded kind of thing to say like 50 years ago or 40 years ago, but
That's how it
now it
seems to
is.
me. Yeah.
Now it is. And so I think it's both. It's like you become more aware of it because you generally like
Yeah.
have seen a lot more and know more
Yeah.
stuff and connect these things, but also it has become
Yeah.
clear because suddenly like everything you do is sort of like locked into that sort of like divide.
Yeah.
In a way. So I think
But
it's both.
Bavaria and Austria are just beautiful countries. And it's funny when I say that because they remind me deeply of home because like the countryside looks a lot like New York. It's a very
Yeah.
similar climate. It's very similar kind of like looking trees. And I don't know if the trees are the same
Yeah.
trees, they just look the same. But it is and I like this area. I like where I live. So I'm like, oh, it's like it's the Hudson
Yeah.
Valley and like the Danube, like around Austria are not that different. I mean, they're not the same, but culturally, it's not what I mean. I just mean the natural sort of
Yeah, the landscape.
yes.
got another
Thank
guest?
you. Oh,
Got another guest. Alex, how you
Ooh.
doing?
Alex, you
Hello.
look like a painting.
Yeah, here I am.
There you go. There you go. Okay.
Guys, I'll be back in a second. I need to find another beer because my voice is getting more and more.
You find more beer. I'm drinking single malt whiskey,
That
finished in
also helps
Pinot
me.
Noir bottles,
Ooh.
barrels.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Diet Coke because my my alcohol tolerance is absolutely terrible. It's nil.
Mine is
I
pretty
just got rid
strong
of
right
stuff
now after that
I put
cruise.
alcohol back, so that's why I don't drink too much alcohol anymore. I had a bit of a bare belly growing for a bit, and I'm like, I'm too young to have that. So
I'm not. I can pull it off.
Yeah, but yeah, no, we were just talking about There Will Be Blood and Scientology,
Oh, boy.
Scientology,
bad
There
science
Will Be
fiction.
Blood, drainage. Yeah.
And also just how freaking weird the old science fiction writers were. Which Joe, I'm sure you have some insight on because you like old pulpy science fiction and fantasy.
I do. I also unfortunately lived in an era where like you'd read stuff by like Doc Smith, but we had very little access to like learning anything about what these guys were like as people. Like there was no YouTube, there's no like interview. There were no magazines. Like maybe there were magazines that existed that might have had interviews with him when he was publishing. But when I read Doc Smith, he'd probably been dead for 20 years and he hadn't written in 40. Like there was no the Time magazine wasn't releasing articles about the guy. So I still know very little about him other than he was a chemist, which is funny because my parents are chemists, which makes me laugh.
I think like that's like one of those things we often don't realize when it comes to sort of like problematic authors. And I have the same like realization with like the heavy metal stuff because obviously there's like a lot of like very problematic people in music. Obviously, it's like until the internet happened, we were like very rarely aware of people had to do like truly heinous shit for everyone to know about it. And now obviously about like every single thing because every author has like a Facebook page or is on Twitter and is posting dumb shit all the time. And the same goes for musicians. And suddenly I know all their positions on mask mandates, vaccinations, and all these other things where I'm like, yeah, I would not have found out like in the 80s or in the 90s even because
Well, think about Twitter, right? Like someone has some kind of racist or offensive misogynist thought. They just tweet it. Like 40 years ago, they would have had to really put effort into writing it into a pamphlet and publishing it for anyone to know, other than the people in the band, right, in the room with them.
Yeah.
So
Where
it's just
like
completely
H.P.
different.
Lovecraft and just write it in his letters to his friends.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: 100 years. If it was 100 years ago, right? So it's 1925, and you're reading. I might have the dates wrong slightly, but you're reading Lovecraft at that time in a pulp magazine. I don't know if you would have any way of knowing what was in his letters.
That's true. Yeah. No, you're,
I mean,
you're right.
you would still learn
as a
about
fan.
the name of his cat, because, of course, the cat is in Rats in the
stories.
Walls.
Yeah, that's you can't really deny that.
But can you imagine what H.P. Lovecraft's Twitter handle would be like? I almost want to do that now.
Scared.
I want to just tweet as H.P. Lovecraft's like the Twitter ghost, and
just like tweet some like passages from his letters, just like you can do that.
Just
Slap him up there.
They're like,
the thing
they're
is,
like leaving his house though, so I don't know if he'd be tweeting left and right though.
he would be tweeting. I'm pretty sure he would be tweeting.
Oh,
You
he
think
seems
so?
like that kind of guy.
I think Robert E. Howard would have loved Twitter, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Howard would have been like an amazing poster, like. But to be fair, like, and obviously I have my problems with Twitter, but like Twitter serves a very specific function, or used to serve a very specific function, which is like, it is like a public bathroom wall, but for the internet. It's like you go to like any public bathroom, you have people writing all kinds of dumb shit or drawing very weird, anatomically problematic and certainly not very accurate depictions of the human body and so on. And
or just
that is kind of what Twitter fulfills. That
healing
need of like, I have a dumb thing, I need to get it out right now. And it's probably just, a weird pun or two words that make no sense. And
Twitter has destroyed the notion. Twitter's destroyed the notion, and it's an age-old wisdom, biblical, and I'm sure it's in other places as well. But it's be slow to speak and quick to listen. And Twitter's made it so you just get your immediate thought out, and then it just comes a cluster.
Like nowadays, someone can just go, this author guy, he stuck his wiener in me without me saying yes, and people freak out about it, and that's kind of the beauty of the. I hate to say this, but that's kind of the beauty of the internet.
I mean, I feel like I agree with like the whole like slow to speak and quick to listen stuff. Like, there is sort of like a need for humans to have a place where you can get out those like really dumb spur of the moment kind of things. And sometimes something really, really good and brilliant comes out of that. Most of the time it doesn't.
Sometimes it should be like in a journal where you could like,
but that's like I've read some amazing things in public bathroom walls. Most of it is dumb.
Right. The signal to noise ratio is not great.
No, my favorite one is like from like my university lecture hall bathroom, and someone had written on the bathroom wall against I think the first one was against racism, and someone else crossed it out and wrote under it against communism. Then someone crossed that one out and wrote under it against fascism, and that got crossed out. And someone was like against socialism, and someone crossed that one out or wrote under it against magnetism, and that is just like, perfect.
Yeah,
that is art.
All right,
and that is very much like Twitter.
All right, so in comments, the ADHD reader said David Eddings is a good example of that. No one knew until after he died. Yeah. What happened with David Eddings? I don't think I know.
Didn't he beat his kids or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
very much child abuse. Very, very, very dark and brutal stuff. And I think he actually went to prison for that. Like, he's convicted.
Yeah, no.
Okay, that's that one. I know about Marion Zimmer Bradley, and then I forgot David Eddings. I was never a fan of his. I never really read his stuff. I mean, not because of this, just because I never got to it. So never.
Yeah, right. The ADHD reader. Yes, I think it's. He was an adopted kid, and he beat him, and lots of like really gruesome like child abuse.
Yeah, it's I'm probably
not good.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if I'll read David Eddings. It's like, you know, when it's like when someone hurts kids, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, you're can't really get behind that. So I'm sure someone will be like, well, what about this guy? I'll be like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But
I unpacked a box of books that's been packed for. I have an original first printing Marion Zimmer Bradley of something or other in a box that I unpacked yesterday and started stocking my shelves. I can't find right now. Yeah. So I was like, oh, what do I do with this?
I mean, I've read The Mist of Avalon. It's an interesting document of its time.
Yeah, you read that for your big Arthurian video you did, right?
Yes, I did, because it is sort of like, it is an essential reading if you want to talk about like Arthurian fiction. You kind of have to read Mist of Avalon because it has had such a huge impact, and it's not a good book, but it tells you a lot about like very specific white woman second wave feminism in the early 80s, which had a lot of problems.
I mean, I'm not that interested in Arthurian literature, but also at the same time, I'm like, yeah, when you like molest kids, like, I'm like, and not just that, like, her daughter's a fucking nut job too, just in a different way. Because
the problem is usually like, obviously, like separating art from the artist, but also, and that is for me, like I have a video, it's uploaded, but I want to re-record it because I don't think I've made the point yet, like fully clearly enough yet. But like, for me, there is a big difference between a good book, an enjoyable book, and an important book. And we often kind of conflate those three in ways that are difficult, right? Like, some of Lovecraft's stories are actually really cool, and I had fun with them. A lot of Lovecraft is really important. Most of Lovecraft is not actually that good, as far as I can go. But depending on why we read something, you know, the personality of the author kind of plays a larger role. Like, my personal enjoyment is definitely heavily impacted by all the things I know about an author being an asshole, right, or being politically bad and so forth. That impacts my personal sort of like enjoyment in a lot of ways. But like, if I read something because it is an important text,
put up with the author being a jerk. It's like, I don't know. It's like when you're like when you have like kids though, like it's like, I don't know. Like,
my
I'll
point
just say I have my limits, is what I'm saying.
For sure. But my point is, if you read The Mist of Avalon, because it is as a historic source, because it is important for the history of fantasy, of Arthurian literature and so forth, at that point you kind of need to read that book. You don't have to enjoy it at that moment, but you're not reading it for enjoyment, because you're reading it for information.
Like when you read the textbook at school. It's
the Mein Kampf problem, right? It's like, you don't read Mein Kampf for enjoyment, but there are situations.
Mein Kampf is bad.
Yeah, but like there are situations where you may have to read Mein Kampf, or at least parts of Mein Kampf. And those are if you are, you know, studying certain aspects of history. If you're, at university, if you are trying to work, write an essay, book, whatever, a term paper, whatever, about certain aspects of Nazi ideology, you do have to read that fucking book, even though it's atrocious and, written by Hitler. And the same goes for something like Mist of Avalon. There are situations
if you just
where
want
you
to read books
read
for fun and you don't care about the history of stuff and whatnot, then don't do it. But if you care about that stuff, or especially if you claim to be like a book reviewer of stuff and you want to be knowledgeable on a topic and not say ignorant, then it kind of requires reading some stuff that you may not particularly like because of the author or whatever.
Exactly.
But if you want to be knowledgeable, then it requires that. Otherwise, you know.
It's not like I was not reading Mist of Avalon for fun, but I felt I had to read it if I want to talk competently about Arthurian fiction in like the 20th century. That that comes with the territory. You kind of have to do that.
No, it's that said, I don't discount all Arthurian related stuff. Like I do like the Green Knight movie, and I read Spear earlier this year, and I quite enjoyed it. It's a good book. Beautifully written, I thought.
Spear is an insanely well-written book.
So good. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
You know what I found? Anyone know this book? Street Lethal by Stephen Barnes?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I've heard of that. That looks very pulpy.
It's I don't know if it's a great book, but Stephen Barnes is a African-American author, right? And wrote a book about like this, his character is like a 0G boxer, right? So he's a professional mixed martial arts before mixed martial arts was a thing, but like a competitive one, and he gets in all kinds of shenanigans, and it's very much about like race. And about like him being a black guy and in this near future Los Angeles, and about coming to terms with all that. And if you can't see the cover, this is the original cover. They put a very white man on the cover of the book, right? And it's like, you can't get this anymore. I just dug this out of an old box of books because this was like a first edition I bought off like off a rack at like a Barnes and Noble.
Him a little bit,
40 years
red.
No, he's same thing. Very white. He did it because there was no other way to sell books, right? They felt it wouldn't sell otherwise. But
it was the same thing with Wizard of Earthsea, right? Like get Wizard of Earthsea Sparrowhawk is described as having copper skin, like he's very like Native American coded, basically. But the covers for like the first editions all had like a white guy on the cover because everyone was like, he's a wizard, clearly he has to look like Gandalf, right? And it made Ursula Le Guin very, very angry.
Oh yeah,
I'm going through.
She did not stop mentioning it over the years
for October, and I started reading Vathek by William Beckford, nice. And there were I guess I didn't save it, but I thought I saved a quote where he talks about this black guy, and he says this man of like ebony skin, but then he goes on to say he basically says, let me rephrase, no, monster. And I had to like, I was like,
my aunt and I one night, we actually looked up because I don't know why we did this, but we looked up a bunch of slur words a bunch of slurs basically on Wikipedia just to see how many of them there were.
There's a long list of racial slurs on Wikipedia.
There was an unhealthy amount devoted to black people and like Jewish people. Like they just get shat on. Like everywhere.
They're the two most, I think.
One of one of those like really interesting things with like slurs for Jewish people, the K one, right? Is that it was basically started by German Jews living in America to sort of like insult the more like Eastern, like Pale of Settlement, Ukraine, Russia, Poland, Polish Jewish immigrants who came, slightly later to America. So you have like your old German Jews who are already sort of like mostly in New York and around that, like established in like the mid 19th century, and then you have that new wave of people, fleeing pogroms in Russia.
Well, that was a driving force for Zionism. Driving force for Zionism was the Americanized, wealthier Jews seeing poorer Eastern European Jews coming and wanting them to go somewhere else. So let's fund a country where, because think about it, this huge numbers of American Zionists were raising huge amounts of money, never went to Israel. They weren't going themselves. It was, we need a place to put these other people. So they don't embarrass us.
And that's where the K-slur comes from, because it's basically a play on a very typical like Eastern European ending of surnames. And it's like, that's where it comes from. And it was heavily started by Jewish Americans of like German Jewish background, basically. And then it turned obviously into like the whole into like a general like anti-Semitic slur. But
well, I was about to say, Raph, I'm like, you should definitely do like a history of bigotry in science fiction and fantasy, but I think you've already done that though. So
I've done a first video on anti-Semitism in fantasy. There are still like 2 more videos on that subject that I want to do, but I did start research for the second one, because on the one hand, like the first video was me just mostly like tracing like a history of anti-Semitism, and there's a second one where I want to look at especially like European Romanticism, 19th century, and how that ties into sort of like forms of nationalism and like the idea of reinventing or recreating or actually constructing mythology, which is sort of like the thing that like someone like Tolkien really digs into and like sort of like uses as a massive inspiration. Like it's where you get your Kalevala, which is very much like a Finnish nationalistic sort of endeavor in a lot of ways, because Finland did not exist as a country at the time. It was partly Russian, partly Swedish, and to actually record and write down stuff in the Finnish language was already seen as a bit of a rebellious act and sort of like fight for independence. And you have your Ossian construction, like Scottish mythology, and you have the Mabinogion for like Wales, and a lot of this stuff is 19th century romanticism, which has some really unsavory ties to some really problematic political ideas, but it is also so fundamental as sort of like a core sort of like source of so much fantasy, and that part I think needs to be talked about. But I got sidetracked by all these other projects, and first I need to finish that fucking video about artificial intelligence, and it's growing longer and longer and longer.
And the Mormon video.
That is the next one, yes.
And the ever mythical Mormon video.
Yeah, but at least the Peter Thiel biography also did add some more bits and pieces for the AI video, and there's like one more book that I really want to read, which comes out on Tuesday or on Thursday, and that is Gilded Rage, Elon Musk and the Radicalization of Silicon Valley by Jacob Silverman. And I think that is sort of like the final sort of like new piece of reading I want to do for the AI video, because it is about artificial intelligence, but unfortunately we also have to talk about the people that are actually doing the artificial intelligence stuff right now. It turns out a lot of them are problematic. They are Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen and David Sachs and all of those fucking people with a lot of like really, really sketchy politics, and that does impact what they're doing. All of them weirdly fascinated with eugenics too.
I walked back in at a good time.
No, Tharnell says, I read all of Lovecraft, liked it all, never gave me one racist thought afterwards. I'm like, I don't think he was trying to like, I'm not one of those people who believes like a book can like make you racist or anything, unless it's like, well, actually,
it's
you know what?
With
It
video
definitely
games or
can.
movies or books, that when people say that, video games make you violent, it's like, no, if you shoot up a place after playing Grand Theft Auto, then there was something wrong with you to begin with. Like, it's not the video games.
What if you keep reading books where, imagine there's two kinds of shelves of books. On one shelf of books are all these stories about made-up worlds where when people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, when they mix, it leads to violence and conflict. And on the other shelf are all books where when people of different cultures mix, it leads to like culinary delights and like peaceful happiness. And if people read solely from that first shelf, I think it does contribute to them believing that ultimately, like when people from different cultures and different religions and different like fundamental belief systems come together and live in one place, there's conflict is inherent, that it's a problem. And that is the core of a certain kind of political belief system. And I think you can be trained to, you can be aware that this book is telling you this and you can not buy into it. But when you are, I think, especially when you are young and when you are not well formed, intellectually, and you read certain kinds of impressionable, good word for it. When you read those kinds of things solely, it can have a deleterious impact in that very specific way. So, I mean, I see it, right? Like, I mean, I made this point when I was talking about like very masculine, books like Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher solves his problems with his guns and his fists, right? Bad people need to be shot, right? Then Jack Reacher. And I'm like, I can read Jack Reacher. It doesn't make me think that all people who commit crimes just should be executed. But I wonder if you were, an impressionable person growing up and all you read were Jack Reacher type of books, would you then think like, oh, well, the world is just a place where bad people need to be shot more effectively? And then you're going to vote for like, yeah, police should have tanks and we should have fewer social workers and more prisons. Maybe that would lead to that thought process. So
I think it does. I would agree. Like it does sort of like it shapes an intellectual sort of climate in which you then move in a specific direction. It's not like you read one book and it turns you Nazi. That's not how that works.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. I'm like, I don't think you read like, I don't think like,
you're right.
But I don't think you like read a Lovecraft story. You'll be like, you know what? Jews and black people, not cool. Not cash money, like I don't think that's gonna happen.
But here's the thing, especially like with like video games, I think it's more because you're an active participant in a lot of ways because you have to interact with the whole thing. It's like I remember back when I was not fully blind yet. It's like you play something like say Hitman. Hitman is a really, really good example there. Like you play Hitman, for like 5, 6, 7 hours because you're, in high school and you have nothing better to do, basically. And then you go out into town for something, and suddenly you walk through like city, you walk through a town and go like, well, this would be like a really good sniper perch. And if I had suddenly that thought process is still in there, and it takes like a couple of hours to wear off. And if you do that like forever and ever and ever for like years and years, it does shape sort of like the way you. The ideas that come to mind when you are faced with a problem, they might change if all day long you solve your problems by blowing shit up, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's only on a screen.
Yeah,
it doesn't turn you into like an aggressive person per se, but it does.
It does affect. Yeah, because I was gonna say at my work I've even thought about where I work. Like, if you ever play Call of Duty and they have the zombie maps, I always thought about like, oh, these rooms would be really good for like holing up and doing like a level there. So even that, I've had that same thing happen to me. So
yeah, like I mean, I'm not gonna read like Mein Kampf and go like, oh man, Hitler's totally on the money about Jew. Like I'm probably not gonna do that.
Probably.
Sure would
like all the weird stuff about like
probably not.
The pages and pages of detailed lists of like how animals are not gay, and I was like, A, you're wrong about that, but B,
wait a minute,
I don't need like 5 pages.
Hold on, animals can be gay? Hold on a minute. They can? Oh, I didn't know
course.
That.
No, of course I did.
It's well documented.
It's very well documented.
I'm not very. I'm not a science guy, even though I like science fiction. Ironically, I'm not an animal. I'm not a Jane Goodall. Was not. It didn't really gel with me. Though I was sad she passed away. You show she was like 91, so she lived a long life.
No, but like animals can be gay. But beyond that, like,
or you know what? Maybe I've actually heard of this. I think like snakes can like. Hold on, let me.
You ever see two dogs?
Snails can change gender. Snails are but like they're up like just like with dogs and different forms, different apes and so forth. Yeah, animals can be gay.
Well, this is AI saying this, so it could be mistaken, but it does say that like penguins and giraffes and bison can have like.
I always suspected the penguins.
It's animals
Smile
that wear
wave,
suits.
boys. Smile and wave. That's my Madagascar reference for the day.
Yeah. No, but like the interesting thing is like in Mein Kampf there is a long passage where Hitler is like raging against like homosexuality, and he just makes all these lists like, obviously the bull doesn't with the bull, and he keeps us going like through animal after animal after animal. It's like, you've made your point. It was wrong. But you are taking 5 pages to make that point again and again.
Yeah,
and again.
Hitler wasn't a good writer, but man, he was a good speaker, though. I hate to praise Hitler. God, how we get on the subject of Hitler again? Like, come on.
Books that make you Nazi.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, probably because I've been educated, but I probably could read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and be like, yeah, this is nonsense. But there might be an impressionable guy out there who might be like, oh, man, this is actually kind of convincing,
Well, I mean...
Yeah, don't let Joe Rogan read them.
Oh, God.
Henry Ford
I actually think I think Protocols of the Elders of Zion would be too far even for Joe Rogan.
Well, that's the danger of freedom of speech and the right to write anything is that that becomes the potential outcome, but then you also have the potential to counter that with your own writings or your own speech.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22. It's like we could block certain things, but then that becomes a slippery slope in of itself.
I mean, I live in Germany, and there are certain things that are forbidden to say in Germany. Like, Holocaust denial will get you into prison, and obviously there's like historic reasons why that is the case in Germany. But like, don't deny the Holocaust in Germany. It is a bad idea. I mean, obviously it's generally a bad idea, but if you do it in Germany, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And I was wondering like how the whole like Elon Musk accidentally raising his arm several times, how that would, because that is also something in Germany you get into trouble for that. You get like, that is also illegal to do the Hitler salute. And obviously, doing it in America doesn't make
not
him
even
liable
as like
in
a
Germany. But
historical
he can't do that.
demonstration. Not even as like a historical demonstration, like a professor would like tell students like he'd raise his arm, or well, you could probably just show them photos.
Picture.
Yeah, you can show a picture,
actually.
but if you can show a picture, but if you're doing it yourself, you get into trouble. There was like a huge sort of like a legal case a couple of years back, where like an art project, like performance artist kind of thing, artist guy did create like garden gnomes doing the Hitler salute and was placing them in like people's gardens, and someone, and the state sued him because he was basically showing an illegal illegal gesture. And
did they arrest the gnomes?
No, the guy for creating them. I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things. I think the court case got thrown out because it was covered after the German term is not freedom of speech; it's artistic freedom. So you can get away with it if it's considered art.
Interesting.
I hate to say this. I kind of respect that guy. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna find loopholes around this and beat the system.
Put some gnomes. They're gonna do the Nazi salute. What are they gonna do?
The thing is, it does very much work because, like, sort of like the German cliche is that people that put like garden gnomes into their gardens are usually very conservative, at the least. So having a garden gnome doing that thing is both funny because of the image of like a garden gnome doing a Hitler salute, but it's also a critique of the kind of people that are associated with putting garden gnomes into their garden and stuff like that. So it was performance art. It was fine, but it's complicated. I mean, Kiss.
The garden gnomes are the American flag of Germany.
That is very much that thing, yes. Kiss did have to change their logo for Germany. Like in Germany, Kiss has a different logo from the US logo because the two S's were too close to the SS symbol, and that is also like a band symbol in Germany. So that they had to change the logo and make it less Nazi-ish for Germany.
I kind of it was kind of funny the mental gymnastics people were trying to do after the whole Elon incident, which I was just kind of like, I don't know if Elon's a Nazi or not. He's probably just, I don't fucking know what his thing.
He wanted to do a meme, and he's just too dumb to stop his arm slow, before it becomes undeniable. He's too stupid to create like plausible deniability, is what I'm saying.
No. He's an edgelord. He's one of these people who thinks that if you say something extreme, it shows people will believe you're smart, which is true. People will, stupid people. And he's made an entire career out of this. That he says extreme things that are counter to the conventional wisdom, because that's what geniuses do, right? Geniuses challenge the status quo. They say things that are different from what everyone else believes. They say they're forbidden. They challenge, the conventional standards around things. That's what geniuses do. So he thinks that by challenging those things, he also assumes the mantle of genius. And it's an incredibly dangerous and incorrect line of thinking, because just challenging this conventional wisdom is pointless and stupid unless you have something worthwhile to replace it with, unless you have a meaningful, contentful challenge. But this is edgelordism, right? His whole religion is being an edgelord. I don't think he beliees anything, but he likes being an edgelord, and people
that's what I
call him a genius.
That's what I lean on. A lot of it's kind of why I was kind of like, oh my God, you're doing exactly what he wants you to do. Because, when people are like, oh, he's a Nazi, I think he's like a genius or anything, but it's just kind of like, you're playing right into his hands, dude.
Yes and no, because the problem is you can't just ignore it if someone does a Hitler salute at the fucking inauguration of an American president.
That's true.
You kind of have to talk about it. That's the problem. You can't.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you're right, but nonetheless, I mean,
yeah, but I agree with you there about the whole like sort of like being an edgelord kind of thing. And that's certainly one thing that I took away from that Peter Thiel biography, because he's very much the same. He's just slightly better at doing it than Elon Musk when it comes to still keeping to sort of like plausible deniability. But like if you ever want to find out like a really lot about like the kind of people that Peter Thiel hang out with and still hangs out with, look at what he published when he was in charge of the Stanford Review, which is a right-wing libertarian student newspaper in Stanford, which him and David Sachs and others were all writing for, and he was editor-in-chief basically. And David Sachs wrote an entire op-ed in favor of rape in the 90s in Stanford. That stuff exists, right? When I'm not making this up. So all of these people are fucking edgelords, and they all believe that being edgelords makes them geniuses. And that might just be the one thing that they actually truly believe, is that they believe that they are in fact smart. Which and whenever and that's the part, right? They're so fucking insecure, and that is partly the problem, right? It's like Mark fucking Andreessen is on Twitter angrily replying to anyone making jokes about the shape of his head. It's like, you are a fucking billionaire.
Who does this?
Everyone does, because it's Mark Andreessen. You can make jokes about Mark Andreessen's head looking weird and how he basically looks like Dr. Robotnik from the Sonic franchise. Games? Yes, and he will get really, really mad. And he replies to like people that have like 1,000 followers on Twitter, right? Like, and you're like, why are you doing this? You are arguably one of the most powerful people in the US right now, with your money and all of that stuff, and you're fighting Twitter wars about the shape of your head with like people that have 1,000 followers now, like 15-year-olds in their bedroom, right? And that is so fucking pitiful on the one hand, but it's also, and that is the dangerous part, like, these people are stupid. These people are incredibly insecure, stupid, and all kinds of other stuff, but they have a lot of money and a lot of power, and that is a very dangerous combination.
Would you say they're also vapid?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like,
so who argues about the size of their head? I want to look this up.
You can Google Mark Andreessen jokes about Mark Andreessen's head, and you will get a lot. I mean, it's very much a favorite pastime of a lot of shit posters on Twitter, is making fun of Mark Andreessen.
Wait, how do you spell his last name?
Andreessen, Andresen. He's part of the Andreessen Horowitz venture capital fund. Heavily invested in OpenAI and all kinds of other stuff. And
Hello, Alicia.
Alicia's here. Hello,
Alicia.
Mark Andreessen.
Andreessen. It's a very German name too, just to be clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his head does look kind of funny. That's it kind of looks like an egg.
Yeah. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. He will get into a Twitter fight with you.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of kind of these reactionary right wingers are pretty thin-skinned, because I went on Twitter and talked to one guy called Razorfist, who some might know.
I know that guy.
On YouTube. I'm like, hey, there's a name in one of your books that you wrote. Just it kind of reminds me of a name of one of the characters from your favorite show, Deadwood, and he blocked me over that offense, over me being kind of snark, because he's always complaining about people ripping off other people. Yeah. And then he wrote a pulp book, and it's basically and he has a character who's literally has, I think his name was like Titus Welliver, and I'm like, that's literally one of the character. I think it was Cy Welliver, actually. And I'm like, that's literally a character name from Deadwood. What are you doing, man? And he blocked me on Twitter. So I'm just kind of like, this is ridiculous, man.
But I love stealing character names. I think a lot of this is like personal insecurity in a lot of ways. It's, I feel there's books about the whole like insecurities and that lead to fascism. They're complex, and they're written by French guys that have read too much Freud and do weird shit. And I'm saying Lacan and people after that.
I mean, Musk does too many things that make him seem like he wants us to all think he's cool. Like he'll like hire people to like
oh no,
or he'll talk
John's
about
here.
how good he is at like certain video games, and it's like nobody cares how good you are at a video game. No one believes it. No one cares. Like come on, man, you've got all this money. Do you really need me to be impressed with how good you are at a stupid like RPG? Like, come on, just grow up.
I think that is like the weird sort of like strange part about especially Elon Musk, where it's like the most explicit, this idea of like you're the richest person in the world and you try to impress me with things that would have been impressive when we were 15 in high school.
Maybe
like look, if you were really good at Diablo 1 while I was also playing Diablo 1 while I was 14, that would have impressed me some. It's not made you the coolest person in the world, but I would go like, oh, clearly you're really good at this, but like you're a 50-something-year-old billionaire. What are you doing?
Speaking of fascism, what's fun is we traveled through Europe, and everywhere we went, the tour guides would talk a lot about the history of their respective countries, but they would really focus on certain periods of time rather than others. Like you go to Czech Republic, and they're talking a lot about now and how free their elections are and how they're like ranked really high on like democratic standards. Then you go to Hungary, they don't talk about now at all, but they talk a whole lot about how they threw out the communists before anyone else did, like in 56, and how they got rid of communism before anyone else. And you get this very interesting picture by what everyone focuses on. You go to Austria, they never mention the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Never comes up. They'll talk about
also
like
don't mention. Do they also never mention the guy with the little mustache? They ever mention Hitler?
It's funny that Austria is less. They seem less on edge. Like Germany has this whole thing where Germany is like, we're going to be we're not going to try to hide the fact that Nazism was here and that we killed a bunch of Jews. We're going to like admit it. We're going to apologize and do what we can to make memorials. And Austria seems to have less of that.
Austria is like really interestingly weird in that some Austrians in the past have claimed that Austria was the first victim of German fascism by being annexed and all of that, which is a bit of a stretch to put it mildly. But Austria
they were first victim of it once Hitler because Hitler came from there.
It's interesting. I agree with you there, Joe. And the interesting thing is, like, I've been like relatively active over the years in the International Students of History Association, which is a student organization for history students, and we're very strong on the Balkans, for example, but used to be also like very strong in Hungary and also in Czech Republic. So I've been to like student conferences all over these places, and a lot of times, because you talk with people that study history in these different countries, the way that history is taught at university is also very much like shaped like that. And I remember being I was like a while ago, must have been like 2017 in Hungary, when like Orban was like getting more and more uppity, basically. And I have friends who were still, like, the first time I was in Budapest, we were at the Central European University, like, the Soros funded thing that was still in Budapest, and they moved it to Vienna now because of all the stuff going on in Hungary, and having friends there and knowing people there that are were actively protesting and seeing like sort of like how the climate changed over time and shifted, and how stuff got harder and harder to do, basically. It's very frustrating. But it also gets to like really, really fun situations in the Balkans, where you hang out with a bunch of Croatians, Bosnians, Serbs, and Northern Macedonian people, and that is where like the idea of political correctness or flaunting political correctness is so far away when you hang out with a bunch of Balkan people talking about recent history. Trust me, like most of English language Twitter is very harmless compared to what's going on in those situations.
I was about to say, like, if you live in like Russia or the Balkans, like, you've already been fucked over too many times by history. I'm sure they've done away with decorum. They're just like, yeah, we're just we're fucked. It's all right.
Ben, you might be right there. Although, to be fair, I also mostly played campaign in StarCraft because at the time I did not have like an actual internet connection, so I had to play single player. Good game though. Anyway.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so like you're right with that sort of like which parts of history you select and talk about and in which way, and yeah, there are just different different approaches, I think, to coming to terms with the past, and I don't know which is like the best way of doing that, because these things will always change. These things will always be sort of like difficult, right? Like Germany's approach to it is certainly has its drawbacks as well, right? We see that right now when it comes to Germany's like very like strong support of Israel, which is heavily tied into the whole like well we did a thing there, right? And
yeah, we made a big whoopsie, as the kids like to say.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is like you need to be very careful in like going like, well, clearly the Holocaust was obviously the crime of the 20th century, to put it mildly, and so forth. But like that doesn't mean that what Israel is doing in Gaza is not also a genocide, right? Like we may have done a bunch of them in the 20th century, but that doesn't. We don't have the monopoly on genocides, is what I'm saying, right? Others can play
that. Sounds like a terrible board game. Monopoly of genocides.
Yeah, I mean, Germany.
I landed on Gaza. $400 to put a hotel here. There's a game to be made. I'm not sure exactly how. Oh, roll 2d6 to wipe out the natives, so you can build your hotel there.
I'll get Judge Holden started.
Yeah,
little pieces like Judge Holden or like Hitler or something.
Like, yeah, like you can buy another
Stalin.
set of smallpox blankets for this place. Yeah, no. The thing is, like Germany did, well, obviously. I mean, we did start the century off with the in Namibia, which, you know, the place where Peter Thiel's dad helped build like illegal uranium mines. That's where we committed the first big genocide of the 20th century, which was, of course, the genocide of the Herero and Nama people, which really bad stuff if you want to learn. And up to until like very recently, we still had like army barracks named after some of the generals that took part in that genocide, because we focused so heavily on World War II that, you know, the stuff that happened before that is kind of, well, I guess we're not going to talk about that one.
Hitler, or sorry, no, not that, but like, the genocide, Like, America's weird because, like, I find America's kind of obsessed with being the good guy in a strange way. Maybe someone will disagree with me, but I kind of find that's how we act. I think that's why we annoy so many people that aren't Americans. It's like, we built this country, you know, based on freedom. I'm like, no, that's great and all. It's still like, you know, there's still like Jim Crow and slavery and all that. And I was like, well, no,
There's some really interesting. There's some really interesting jokes about Nazis in One Battle After Another that you might enjoy, including a Mohawk tracker that is like really good as a tracker, but unfortunately he's not a proper American born.
Oh man.
Which, you know,
that's a good point. That's good. That's a good point, Mikhail. It's America. Yeah, because like we're just weird out here in America. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And even though I rag on Howard Zinn a lot, I find that people's history in the United States is kind of the best exploration of that unique weirdness of America and just like how we act. Because it's like, look, America was founded on like a genuinely good thing. Like, you know. Like we genuinely had a good thing going. But you know, Joe's kind of looking weird. What are you?
I mean, it depends what you mean. Like, what's the good thing? The good thing is the slaughter of the native population.
Well, no.
I mean, that's what America was founded on. I mean,
I mean the principles. I'm not saying like, you know.
You're talking about the actual like principles laid out in like the
like we find these truths to be self-evident.
Okay, I'll buy that. But the circumstances under which those things were written was displacement and colonization of a native population.
Well,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I live here on former native land, and I haven't given it back. I own like this, whatever eighth of an acre that I live on, and I haven't given it back to the Native American tribes who had this land before. Like I'm part of the problem, right? But
I mean, that'd be kind of funny if you went to like a random Native American guy, Joe, and was like, "Here, you can have your land back." And
here, take my house.
It's like, what are you talking about?
House. Yeah, take my house and my tax and my real and my property taxes. That would be the no, trick.
I mean like I mean the principles. I don't mean like the actual.
Okay,
like,
I'll buy that.
I'm not saying like you know Blood Meridian, you know, Native American scalp stuff.
Yeah,
because that definitely happened.
I read that book.
My camera died, so now you just get Carsa Orlong.
No, I do.
John Stevenson, you are the odd man out.
It's kind of
let's not dwell on the past. It's an amazingly privileged thing to say when the past has put you on top of the heap.
Hold on.
Thornall, I have not yet started it, but I really wanted to read it. The other part is that friends have asked me to run like a Deadlands tabletop role-playing game campaign for them, and I feel the Buffalo Hunter is the perfect sort of like inspirational read for that.
Yeah, you know, I've been wanting to read that. I mean, I actually just recently wrote a review for Mongrels, which is Stephen Graham Jones's take on the werewolf. And I'm also hoping to do that on my channel soon, since I'm doing the Spoopathon right now.
Buffalo Hunter.
But
yeah, that's kind of that's his take on vampires, isn't it?
It's from this year. It's from this year. It's it's a vampire thing. I think it's written as like an epistolar novel, so it's like letters and diaries of someone hunting. Yeah, and it's also about like you know, either the vampire is like native and attacking and killing white people who are, you know, it's complicated, but from what I can tell, the audiobook is also at least partly narrated by people with like an indigenous background. So that is really cool if you use those voices to actually have, you know, actual own voices. You know what I mean in that regard. So no, it sounds really cool. It's like 19th century vampires in the West.
Yeah, it's excuse me. Yeah, I was about to say, it's funny that, John, you bring that up, because I was actually talking with Mikhail about this, because, you know, Canada also, which, you know, I suppose is just kind of a thing of history where some people show up and are like, we're going to take this land. And the people who originally lived there are like, no. And then because they have the better weapons, they start killing people. I'm like, that's, you know. I hate to say it. That's kind of a dark part of human nature that I don't know if it's going to go away.
Ben raised a really.
I mean, that's kind of what happening in Israel right now. Actually, if you really want to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happening.
Like a really important point there. Like the fact that like the last
that's the one I'm
school
familiar
in Canada
with.
is like only like. That's like not even 30 years ago is the last residential school in Canada closed. That is insane. Like that level of, you know. Yeah, it's not exactly ancient history. I was not old enough to drink, but I was already drinking beer at the time. The last residential school was closed.
That somehow doesn't shock me, Ref.
I'd already dropped out of my PhD program.
Yeah, see.
Excuse me. Now my voice is going out. No, but like the original point I was trying to make is that, like, it's kind of like America kind of started on this very high ideal of equality and freedom. And we kind of undercut that with, you know, the stuff that Joe was talking about. And also the issue of slavery, which, you know, we kicked that can down the road before, you know, the Civil War happened. And then we had to end it. I mean, it's not funny, but I mean, and still that racist history is with us today. You know, I can still think of things that are happening right now that are a response to that.
Yeah, and I think what is interesting, and that's something I feel I would have to explore further and read more on it. But like, I somehow feel that by having sort of like the focus on the Declaration of Independence and that specific sort of like very high-minded sort of like ideal as sort of like a founding myth up to a point where we go like, yeah, this is the United States. We have this one document, and this is what we've always been. That specific thing makes it much harder to sort of like come to terms with all the bad parts of like your history in a lot of ways, because like you can't actually be those guys, right?
I think the kind of weird crisis we're in America, because there's the people who figure out about it and then go, well, America's a lie, basically. Or there's other people who are going like, well, okay, these things happened, we can't change that, and it's still, there are still reverberations, but we can attain that ideal, which is what I believe personally. Which is probably why I'm not very popular with my more progressive friends, because I'm like, I do think that
no, it's because your progressive friends think they're the ones who are doing that, and you think you're the ones who are doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
You're exactly positioning yourself. You're begging the question, right? Your progressive friends think that being progressive is how we can reach those ideals.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In other words, like, how do we reach those ideals laid out in the Declaration of Independence? It's leftist politics, not rightist politics, that are going to get us there. And you're assuming that they're wrong. That's the debate.
Well, I disagree with them. I don't know if it's necessarily they're wrong. Well,
one of you is wrong.
One of us.
I know which one of you. I know which side I think is wrong. I'm pretty sure I know
for that one.
But you have to, and I do, and you have to acknowledge that they think you are wrong, and they have reasons. You may think their reasons are flawed. You may think that they're wrong, but you can't just assume, well, I'm on the side trying to get us back to the way the founding fathers meant things to be, and I promise your political opponents are believing the same thing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I've kind of dealt with in my, which is kind of why I've moderated a bit more in recent years. It's like, you know what, these people, we all want the same thing,
No.
Well,
because
are you with Charlie Kirk on race replacement theory, or are you not with Charlie Kirk on race replacement theory? I'm not with Charlie Kirk on that.
But that's conservative politics today.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know what side are you on? I mean, look, if you want to be a self-proclaimed conservative and you're like, well, I don't believe in race replacement theory, they're going to kick you out. Man, We'll take you in, man. We're liberals. We're progressives. We're open arm, man. Welcome to the fold. Well, I'll pour you a beer. But you either have. Okay, look. Let me give you an example. My favorite example, right? I went to Queens, New York, which is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the world culturally. And we went there to shop for stuff because it has a large South Asian population. So we're going there to shop for like lengas and like South Asian treats and stuff like that you can't get in most places outside of like South Asia. So we go there. We accidentally went there on Gay Pride Day. Okay, totally had
but like I'm sure
had no idea. Now, New York City Gay Pride is not like Gay Pride anywhere else. Okay, New York City Gay Pride is very in your face. So you're walking down the street, and everywhere I look, there's like a guy wearing like chaps and nothing else, right? Like a couple guys, right? Like ass cheeks just kind of hanging out, and every like little clusters of people like that, like all very gay people, but very made up in a way they're not normally for their everyday lives, but very flamboyant, celebrating their sexuality in a way that's not part of their normal day life. Every other group is like a little cluster of like women in hijabs, because that's the community. It's a heavily Muslim, like South Asian community, right? And everyone just went about their business. There was zero tension. There was zero conflict. Nobody cared. The women just went around. Their faces were covered. There was a guy with his ass cheeks hanging out like 5 feet away. She ignored him because she's like, I'm not looking at a guy's ass cheeks because that's not my culture. Guys were like, oh, she's in a hijab. That's fine. I have no problem. And everyone just got along. And everyone was eating and going to food stalls. Is that your vision of America? Or do you think America needs to be the like 5 blondes going to church and then going to a picnic on like a checkerboard? Does it have to be that? Or can it be Queens, New York?
And I mean, it can't. I think it can be Queens, New York.
Same.
Then you're on. Then you're a liberal at heart. I'm sorry.
Well, I say I'm a liberal.
I'll give you 5-10 years to get there, but you're going to be with me one of these days. Because the Charlie Kirks of the world didn't think that was real America.
Well, I'm not a conservative. Well, I don't consider myself one.
Okay. The idea of conservatism is also like broken in a lot of ways because conservatives are not conservatives; they're reactionary at this point. Like conservatives.
Well, yeah, I'm very anti-reactionary. So
and that's kind of the problem. Like for example, like conservatives are they call themselves conservatives, and then they have all these like weird projects where you're like, that is not conservative. If you are a conservative, why do you want to deny climate change and burn the planet? Shouldn't you be in favor of protecting
conservatism like at least should be is like neoconservatism, like Bill Kristol, William Buckley, like that. Like that is like what I think of as like genuine American conservatism, not whatever the fuck this weird Pat Buchanan, Donald Trump, hellscape we're in. Like, that's just like, that's populism. Like, that's not conservatism.
Yeah. John Stevenson, you might be trolling there, but you're also using the wrong tense.
I was about to say, I'm like, he got shot about a month ago.
No. I am not going to celebrate Charlie Kirk's demise.
No, of course not.
I won't mourn him, but I won't celebrate him.
Like the fact that there's so much wrong with the whole thing is it's a tragedy that people are able to do this, that people think that is the only option they have. All of this it's all fucked up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm as a German, I just like, holy shit, like when the whole thing happened, I was like, yeah, well, it's an open carry state, and there's open carry on fucking university campuses. Why do you need guns on a university fucking campus?
Yeah. The irony is how
just to begin with, right?
How vociferously Charlie Kirk argued for the freedom for everyone to carry guns. There's an irony there. That doesn't mean he deserved to die.
Sure,
but it is ironic.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not going to defend Charlie Kirk because I should note I found his kind of Steven Crowder prove me wrong style of debate to be kind of disingenuous, because of
course it is.
When you're arguing with like college students, like I'm in college, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I probably wouldn't be, and for one, I don't have the time to prepare whatever I would have to argue with somebody, an actor such as Charlie Kirk. So again, it feels really disingenuous.
I mean, he's had like people like Crowder, Ben Shapiro, another one of those people. And they have like years and years and years of media training. You don't have that, and it's all performance is what it is, and it's performance in favor of producing hate at the end of the day.
It's like I don't know.
It's frustrating, is what it is.
I was about to say, like, I don't think like Charlie. Well, you know what? I won't say that, but I do think he was just trying to. He was just a guy who talked shit on the internet, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of people who talk shit on the internet, but he got a really big audience while talking shit on the internet. It's basically doing what Elon Musk did, Yeah.
But that's the point. Is like talking shit on the internet is something that everyone does. Having somebody having right-wing billionaires fund your platform, so suddenly you can talk shit on the internet to millions of people, and suddenly having actual power. That is where the problem happens, because talking shit on the internet is not you need no qualification for that. Having actual power and impacting politics, that's where responsibility and stuff comes in, and that's a very different game.
We got really serious on this live stream today.
Yeah, this is normal day at the office for us. Like when I do these shows, it's unfiltered.
Thornall, there are agencies that provide media training for the political actors and so forth. You can pay for that, or have someone like the Koch brothers pay for you to have that. I can't help you with media training.
It's actually pronounced Coke. I actually looked it up on. I'm not really a big fan of Rational Wiki, but sometimes I'll read their stuff, for laughs, because I know Rational Wiki isn't entirely serious.
The
which
Coke
is kind
thing
of funny.
is fascinating to me.
Which is kind of funny. They're called Rational Wiki because they're basically new atheists who are like, "Here's what you should believe," basically.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
I know.
You're basically doing what you're criticizing these other people for doing. Like, do you really want critical thinkers, or do you want people who think just like you?
No. My point is, like, the Coke.
Sorry.
Coke is so fascinating to me because it is, like, the way it's spelled. It's a German name, right? Koch. And in German, you would pronounce it Koch, which is a cook.
Yeah.
Also, like, their father, was both involved in the business plot, which is one of those really fun things you should know about when you study American history, and built oil refineries for the Nazis. While everyone else didn't do that.
Alex, you're breaking up.
I'll give you that.
Tharnell, I think you're wrong. T-Hall is the main character of Malazan. T-Hall.
I do love T-Hall.
Because Tehal is the only one who has demonstrated that he can manipulate events far outside his immediate surroundings with almost insignificant actions, which means, as far as we know, he's the driver behind what everyone does in the entire series.
Yes. I will, however, agree that Calor is, in fact, a good guy and did nothing wrong.
That's a separate argument.
Look, he saved us from, like, a really, really, really boring main character for, like, everything from book 3 onwards. So
we need to reread that series.
Yeah, me too.
I don't remember.
I've only just read the first one.
Got far enough in.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm only read the first one.
Raph, I was unpacking an old box of books and I found my copy of Tower of Fear by Glenn Cook.
Nice,
right?
Yeah, no, it's
silly.
It's
silly.
I'm going to read Shadow Ticket on Tuesday. I'm so fucking excited for this.
Yeah, I was about to say, a new Pinch-On book's coming out on the 7th, which is on Tuesday.
I've got it on pre-order for a long time. 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning is when Audible releases its pre-orders, and then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read and read and read. Well, in this case, listen and listen and listen until it's done.
I am probably going to finish The Bloody Chamber at least this week because it's not very long. Darnell,
you said like 160 pages or something.
It's like 162 pages.
That's easy.
Also, apparently, this is what the film The Company of Wolves was based on, so that's pretty cool. I haven't seen that film yet, but you know me, I love werewolves, so yeah.
Who doesn't?
I dig it.
Werewolves are awesome.
Well, yeah, werewolves are awesome, man.
Oh, also on the 7th, this week is insane for books, right? Shadow Ticket comes out, and Shitification by Cory Doctorow comes out, which is a book that you really, really, really need to read. Like, everyone needs to read that. It's important. And on the 9th, Gilded Rage comes out. The new Witcher book comes out in English. I'm
Sorry,
not going to read that one.
Oh, Joe's excited.
I've read all the other Witcher books.
There are two Witcher books. There are two. Their collections of short stories, and then sadly, Sapkowski died. That's very unfortunate. Wish it hadn't happened, but
that is Brotherhood of the Wolf, which I actually own, but I haven't seen that film yet.
It's a good movie.
I want to.
Good is too strong a word.
That one is so fucking good. That movie is really good.
I own it. I just haven't seen it yet.
About the Beast of Givaudan.
They do have the second Malazan sequel book coming out at the end of the month as well.
Yeah, no, like Forsaken.
That reminds me, I need to get the people I have in store for my Gardens of the Moon discussion. So that's going to be fun.
Are you going to do the Gardens of the Moon discussion before you start Deadhouse Gates, or
probably before? I like I said, I'm taking a break from Epic Fantasy, which I'm sure Raph coming full circle with the Arthurian stuff we were talking about earlier. I am hoping to read The Bright Sword in 2026, or is it The Bright Sword, or is it This Bright Sword? The Lev Grossman Arthurian book that came out
It's fun.
2 years ago.
I enjoyed it. I had fun. It was pretty good. I think my problem with it was that I had read so much other Arthurian stuff that a lot of the things
Lev You're Grossman kind of burned out on it.
No, not necessarily burned out, because there was a break between the two. But like a lot of the stuff that Grossman does, I've seen in other books. So if it's like your first Arthurian retelling, or like postmodern Arthurian retelling, right? Then you go like, wow, there's a transgender guy and a knight in there, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there, right? And that is really cool.
So,
but if you've read like Spear, and if you've read like all these other books, you're like, well, clearly like queerness has been introduced to Arthurian literature before, and all these other things have already happened. He just like puts all of it together in like one book. So it was good, but it did not have like that level of novelty that it would have had if I hadn't read both hadn't read like all of these other books, including Spear and By Force Alone in particular.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I thought Spear's take on like queerness was really interesting.
Oh yeah, it is.
I had a book of mine mentioned by an author on like books to read for Gay Pride Month or something, and I was like, I had forgotten that I made a major character gay in that book until I heard him mention my own book in the video, and I'm like, nice. Oh yeah, I forgot. Like I wrote the book, I released. He's like, don't forget partial function, and. I was very proud of myself for it, because the main character is like this big, burly, very hairy guy, uses bear style kung fu. So I had to make him gay because he's a bear. It's like it had to be. It was like the ultimate like dad joke. So and it actually became relevant to the plot, but not. It wasn't a major part of the plot, but it was there. And I forgot I did that.
Sad. We have to clarify that. I always think it's kind of sad.
Well, okay. I have a thing about this. Like, I feel like I would not. I don't think someone like me should write a book like about being gay or about being black, right? People who are not like having a black or gay character, even a major character, is one thing. But to write a book where the focus of the book is on what it's like to be a person of that culture, or that when you're not, is really risky unless you do a ton of. If you do a ton of research, maybe it's like you seen The Wire, Britton?
Yeah.
Okay, I really feel like The Wire was about, in a large extent, it was really about being black in America in a way that just having a black character in a show isn't necessarily. Now those guys did a ton of real research. No, but they did real research.
They were journalists, or David.
They were journalists. They were journalists. So they're not black, but they were journalists. And I think as far as I'm concerned, that's totally fine. But for someone who didn't do that research and wasn't a member of that community to write about that experience, to me, is very risky. And I wouldn't do it.
Yes.
Right. I wouldn't write a book about what it's like to be gay in America today, because I don't know. I could do the research and maybe learn and figure it out and spend, I'd have to put in the hours, but I'm not doing that. But
yeah, I agree. Like it comes with like a responsibility, right? And that responsibility is to make sure that you get it right, and that can mean like hours and hours and hours of fucking research and sensibility readers, viewers, whatever. Like
But like in one of my books, right? There's a woman in a hijab in the background, like handing someone like something on a clipboard. Yeah. I don't need to do research to understand what it's like to be a Muslim in Africa, right? Like. It's not relevant. It's not about that. She's a minor. She's like, I don't even think she has a name, right? Like, you can do that. You can have this inclusion. It doesn't have to be about that cultural experience. But if you're writing a book about what it's like to be an immigrant, you better really know something about what it's like to be an immigrant. You either better be an immigrant, or you would have really put in the hours.
I see what you're saying, Joe. I do disagree a little bit. I do think that, I mean, as writers, we make stuff up. So I think we can just, I do think writers can write about whatever they want to write about. But I do agree if they are going to do something they're not familiar with, they should probably do research. I do think that's a good idea.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not a writer, so I don't really have a say. But typically, if I'm reading something, I would say,
you know
like,
what,
if
Joe, maybe
I'm
I do
reading
agree with you on that. I don't know.
If I'm reading an author though who doesn't have an experience with a certain thing, I'd say the most important thing, if they're going to include like a gay character or a person of color, that they're not, just that they make them as compelling as any other character, whether they be white or whatever. And that's ultimately all that matters, is that you could switch it out with any race or anything, and it would still be a phenomenal character. So
I guess what kind of rubs me wrong about that kind of sentiment, I've seen people like Reads with Rachel who've gotten mad at books like American Dust, which is a book about the Mexican immigrant experience, but it was written by like a white lady. And she was all mad about that. And she basically is like, you're writing a book that you shouldn't be writing. And that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was writing a goddamn book with you. Like, I don't think, like, I feel very strongly that you shouldn't tell somebody how to write something.
The artist should be free to express whatever they want to express.
Yeah, exactly.
But much like we were talking about free speech earlier,
Joe, I don't know if you agree with that or not. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But that's kind of where I generally land on that. Though I do agree that if you are going, so I don't know what you think on this.
There are people who would say that you shouldn't write a book about what it's like to be gay in America unless you yourself are gay in America. And there are people like me where I'm going to be a little more inclusive and say, if you're going to write about what it's like to be gay in America, that's the theme of the book, if that's the point of the book, right? But then, then you better at least have done a ton of research or be yourself a member of that community. Right. Like I'll personally, I'm more comfortable with either. Someone else may disagree with me. That's fine. But like, but we make stuff up all the time. Like I write about what it's like to be the child of an alien in Canada. Right. That's what my series is about. I couldn't do any research on that, sadly, because I couldn't find anyone to interview. So I had to just make it up. And then Mitch in comments was asking how I feel about for token inclusion. I don't know, like if I have a group of people, like I said, I have a lot of situations where there's a lot of background characters in my scenes, like there's a superhero team, and a lot of these characters are people who only get a few lines of dialogue, and I'll tend to just try to make some small percentage of them gay. Like, my husband, like a guy will just be like they're about to the alien, the alien spaceship's about to land. Like, I better call my husband and tell him I'm going to be late for dinner because we're about to get into a fight. And like, it's not about being gay. Like, this is not about like a full exploration of that experience. It's like a one-off line. Someone I have yet to be called out for.
Varied, right? It just makes the intent more colorful. Yes,
that's the intent. This is make the world a little more honest.
That's fine. I'm not saying like that's bad.
I have yet to get crap for that from anyone serious.
Like I that's not. I'm not saying that that's what you're saying. What like Reads with Rachel was.
No, I think what Mitch in comments was, I think making was asking about token inclusion, and I think that's what he was getting. I think that's what Mitch was getting at. I'm sorry, Mitch. I assume you're a guy because of Mitch.
Yeah, I feel like the idea of like token inclusion feels like this character is only in there because you feel like you have to have like a gay, black, whatever.
In a wheelchair
inclusion is it's like but like if you depict like an actually like a large society or whatever, there will be gay people there will be people in wheelchairs, there will be black people there. That is how the world works, right? If there's only like two people in a room, then it kind of feels weird. But like if you depict like an actual living, breathing world, then those people will show up. Will they be like main characters? Who knows? But like, in the background, there will be, because you don't know how many people you meet every day that are gay, have some like chronic illness that you don't know about. There's a lot of stuff out there you don't know, but those people just are around.
If you're in a public square and it's a meteor coming down from the sky and it's about to crash and everyone's on their phones with someone, some of those people are on their phone, like it's a big square. Odds are good some of those people are on phones with the same sex partner.
Yeah, of course.
Like everyone's like saying goodbye to their spouse, right? It's probably not, if it's 3/4 of those people, something unusual is happening, right? Like, unless it's a gay pride parade, right? Like, it shouldn't be more than, a small percentage relatively. I don't know the number, but it's not half. Half the people are not gay, right? But it's some. So you can put that in the book or not.
Yeah, like that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying you did this or anything, Joe, but it does, like, when someone, like, what I mentioned earlier, Reads with Rachel, goes like, oh, you're writing a book that you shouldn't be writing. That sets me the wrong way. Like that.
Oh no, I'm probably more on your side than not. I would say that you shouldn't be writing it unless you've done some research.
That's what
you shouldn't be writing it out of ignorance. I would probably say that, but
okay, like that's fair. I'm not,
Yeah, that's what it comes with.
I think the lady who wrote American Dust did research, so it's like, again, just that argument is just meaningless at that point.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I don't know. I haven't read the book, and I don't know whether the research is like. Obviously, I'm not part of that, so I can't judge whether the representation is good or not. But like, that's the point. It's like, if you are writing about something and you're making a specific experience, sort of the core thing of your text. At that point, there's a lot of responsibility and a high risk of fucking it up, because people who have that specific experience will very clearly tell you that you did not actually, get it right. So. Yeah. You'd better sit down and do the fucking research and talk to people and so forth, or you have that like, I personally, wouldn't do that necessarily, because I don't write, but that's a different thing. But even then, I would probably go for like low hanging fruits and do like something easier. I'm like, yeah, I know what it is to be a dude, right? I can write about that. That's just like easier. So unless I have like a very specific point to make and really, really care about something, I wouldn't go there, because it's just harder, and I'm a lazy kind of person, right? And if I care enough to make that a thing, then I care enough to actually get it right? And then I care enough to do the research and do the talking with the people and so forth.
I'm lazier. I write about things that don't exist so that no one can call me on the accuracy. Oh, that's not what it's like being a superhero, a superhero child of aliens. Like, no one can do that, because
unless like,
so I get to make up whatever I want.
Out of what works and
fantasy or superheroes, you don't gotta, or sci-fi, you don't gotta worry about it, unless you make your science super hard, and then there's gonna be people yelling at you.
and I very specifically don't.
Yeah.
Make the science very hard, but almost not exactly that reason, but largely for that reason. So very deliberately. Yeah, no one gets the element. Well, people do, but I'm always like, well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I know it's kind of a slippery slope, but that's kind of where I land on that issue. I'm like, Joe's a writer. He can write about whatever he wants. That's kind of what I think, or he should be able to write about whatever he wants. Now, if he wants to do his due diligence, I mean, I don't want him to write like caricatures or anything, but.
Add a Galactic Dark Lord and some lightsaber katana beams, and I'm good. That's fun. I do love our Star Wars.
Yeah, it's always good. Star Wars is always good, bad. No, but yeah, it's like, you know what, Joe? In lighter subject matter, try here. What have you been reading recently, Joe? Any interesting indie books?
I'm reading Dungeon Crawler Carl 5.
Oh, is it any good?
What did I? It is very similar to the other Dungeon Crawler Carl books. So if you like them, then yes. I like them a lot, but I don't think I love them as much as some. The RPG elements don't resonate for me. I'm not really a lit RPG guy, so I don't think I like them as much as some other people. And I think the audio is probably a better experience than the sight reading. People who get super passionate about it are often talking about the audiobook disproportionately, but they're very good. I think they're much better books than they seem to be, because people talk about the action and the humor, but there's depth to it, including a lot of political commentary that I find quite lovely. I'm trying to think. The other thing I was just reading was I read something. My friend A.R. Witham wrote a short lit RPG. It's not finished. He sent it to me to beta read or even alpha read. I don't even know. That was quite good, except it was very funny. It had all these references to like the main character was an older person, like because AR's my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the main character was like an older person who got dumped into a video game. A lot of 80s television show references, like, and I'm just like, this book is really going to work for us. I don't know if it's going to work for someone who's like the typical lit RPG reader who is not, I don't think, in their 50s, because it's making a lot of. So like, I don't know if it's like a smart.
Well, I mean, Ready Player One, it was a huge success as well, right? So
maybe it will. Maybe it'll be great.
I hate Ready Player One.
I haven't read it. I don't care about it.
I haven't read it.
Oh, but Raph, it's not good though. It's really stupid.
Yeah, so why would I read it?
I watched the movie.
Before that, I wasn't reading.
Yeah, my dad loves the movie of Ready Player One, and the movie's fun. I enjoy the movie, but
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's I haven't read Dungeon Crawler Carl yet, mainly because I tend to be kind of hipsterish with popular things and just avoid them until the hype dies down.
I just really can't get over the name.
The beauty for me is that I'm so far behind on BookTube and all the stuff that people have talked about that I have so much to get through that's already been discussed. And so by the time I get to the stuff that people are talking about now, they'll be talking about 50 new things that are brand new. So like I've never read Realm of the Elderlings or Janny Wirt's War of Light and Shadow. And so all that stuff I've looked forward to, a bunch of sci-fi stuff I've never read. So I got stuff for years that I've not. Plus, now I'm finally reading classical literature, real literature in quotation marks.
Well, speaking of Janny Wirtz, my friend Zachary Shea did the audiobook recently for The Gallant from Janny Wirtz. So.
Yeah, I saw that came out. That sounds nice.
It's my 40-year-old copy of Mistress of the Empire by Feist and Wirtz.
Ooh, that's a nice old school SFF cover.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. It might really be 40 years. Like I think it was when it was first released. I'm trying to find a date.
And Joe's books are also on the TBR somewhere.
33.
So, well, Alex, what classics are you reading?
So far, I've read. Well, it's also part of the Gothic.
I was going to say, I know you've read Conan.
Wuthering Heights, which I quite enjoy. I didn't realize the movie was coming out next year. I kind of just read Wuthering Heights on a whim. And I thought that was really good. I mean, it was a little iffy in certain parts, but overall, I was surprised with the whole plot because I thought it was just like a romance thing. It's not. It's not even really about that at all. So it was actually about like
classics.
This classist racism.
So, Alex, have you read Moby Dick yet?
Well, I read Moby Dick in school. I plan on rereading it because I hated it in school, and
I need to reread Moby Dick.
I'm hoping now that I'm older, I'll appreciate it more. So
because I know it's Cormac McCarthy's favorite book, and also there's a lot of Moby Dick references in Blood Meridian. So I'm kind of like, you know what? I maybe should give Moby Dick a try. I think
Moby Dick is the kind of book that really, really sucks when you have to read it.
Yeah,
and works really well when you decide to read it. You know,
I remember being really fascinated by the illustrated classics version of Moby Dick when I was a kid because it has these weird illustrations. Like there's one where a guy is literally like on the whale, like he is. I'll never. This image is just burned into my head of a guy who is literally strapped to the whale.
Yeah, but that's how the book ends.
I also read Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway, which I really enjoyed.
Okay. Yeah, right. You said that earlier. I feel like so Moby Dick I think works really well for me. Like Moby Dick was a really weird experience because I read it as a kid because for whatever reason there was a German like translation, but also like abbreviated and simplified for kids. And, like Moby Dick is not actually that much of a kid's story, but apparently someone was like, well, it's sailing ships and whales and stuff. It's clearly an adventure story for kids. and then I read like the English original. I'm like, holy shit. That's not what like 13-year-old
I tried reading it again in high school and just being completely thrown off by like the language, you know? Yeah. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, Wuthering Heights got me for a bit because, you know, I'm a stupid young adult that grew up in the 2010s. And so when I was reading Wuthering Heights, I think it's just, you know, excited. and
Yeah.
but they kept saying they kept ejaculating everywhere, and I was very
God.
confused for a little bit. And I finally realized, oh, okay, well, clearly they're not talking about that. So
Yeah, like when they say let's have a gay old time. Like I was reading the Time Machine again. I was reading the Time Machine again the other day, or it was about a month ago actually, because I was reading it for a science fiction class I'm taking.
Yeah.
And
Tolkien also used the word queer quite a lot.
Yeah, no, like he uses the word gay a lot, and it's kind of
There is a chapter. The chapter in The Hobbit. There is a chapter in The Hobbit, and it's called Queer Lodgings. And it is, of course, the one with Bjorn, who is the bear. And there's like there's a lot of dad jokes you can make about the queer lodgings with the bear.
Oh, I was about to say there's so it's not a gay club for hobbits.
No, it's a chapter. It's a chapter when they're hanging out with Bjorn after they've been rescued from the by the eagles and then leave.
You know, the Quilluminati, you know, John Minton, Brian Bell, Mike, and they were reading Conan. They were reading Conan together, the Conan novel. And John was like, I can't believe how often they use the word ejaculated in this book. I'm like, that's your takeaway.
Yeah. One of the really fascinating things about not just Wuthering Heights, but all three of the Bronte sisters is their dad was heavily involved in the Luddite uprising. Like he was actually the minister taking like the last confessions from some of the Luddite loom breakers that got executed by the state for rebelling against automation and so forth. And that is important because it does influence sort of like that's what those three sisters grew up with, right? And it does impact their politics in their books because they did deal with questions of class and stuff like that heavily. And once you know that that's the background of like where they grew up with, the same way that Frankenstein is written by someone who was also heavily involved in that. Yeah. Dracula.
I found this lady on Instagram who works at Cambridge, and she's specialized in like the 18th century like Gothic stuff. So she has like a kind of like a canon like chronological order list of all of the big ones. So I'm going through that. So I got to work my way up to Frankenstein and Dracula. So that's why I'm reading Gothic right now, which I would have never picked up without finding her stuff.
Yeah. No, I said like the thing with like Mary Shelley is of course like obviously being the daughter of Godwin and all of that. Like she grew up in like a very revolutionary household to begin with, right? And then marrying
Didn't you read
Percy
a book
Shelley.
about the Luddite uprising? I recall.
Yes, I did. It's called Blood in the Machine by Brian Merchant. I recommend it to you.
I saw that at one of my local bookshops the other day, and I thought
you said it's a really good book. You should read it. Right now, Brian Merchant, like Blood in the Machine is also the name of his Substack. And right now he has like a really interesting series, interviews with people whose jobs have actually been replaced by AI, which is very few people, but they do exist. And it's a shit show, as you can imagine, because it's not exactly leading to better quality work in any way, shape, or form.
But yeah, now that I've diversified my reading, it's so frustrating that I have to be an adult that works, and that I wasn't a big reader in high school when I had more free time.
Since you've been reading like Lost Generation stuff, have you read The Great Gatsby yet?
Well, I read it in high school. I plan on rereading it though. So, but I have read it, and I enjoyed it when I read it in high school. And I watched the movie with Tobey Maguire as well. And since he's Spider-Man, I obviously enjoyed that as well. So
I always say like if they had somehow managed to make Joel Edgerton time travel to 1974 to play Tom Buchanan instead of Bruce Dern, who's a good actor, but he looks like a fucking weirdo. Not at all how I imagine Tom Buchanan. If they had just put Joel Edgerton in the 1974 movie, it would have been the best adaptation of the book. Because like Robert Redford, banger. Mia Farrow, or no, it's Faye Dunaway. Sorry. Faye Dunaway, great. The Herschel plays the gas station guy, also really good. Like the cast in that is really good, except for Bruce Dern. I like Bruce Dern. He's just too creepy looking to play Tom Buchanan, in my opinion.
And then I also watched Midnight in Paris, which also got me more excited
That's
to
a
read more
fantastic
classic
film.
literature.
Even
I
though
loved
Woody
it.
Allen's a kind of a freak, but he
Yeah.
that's a
But
great
the
movie.
movie was good. It inspired me more with my reading.
Well,
But it's like,
if
I got
you're
all the
reading
fantasy stuff, I got
classics,
all the sci-fi stuff, I got self-publishing books I want to read, so it's
mm,
like all these things, not enough time in the
if you're
world.
reading classics, the one that you really need to read is Don Quixote.
Oh, I plan on it. It's just it's a big chunker.
Definitely
It's just
read that it is, and definitely read both parts, because part 2 is one of the weirdest, most metafictional postmodern things ever written 400 years ago.
and that was the 1600s, right?
Yeah, it's really old, and it goes like into like really like metafictional stuff, and Don Quixote going up against sort of his own legend and people telling stories about stuff that he hasn't done, which is Cervantes arguing with people writing unofficial other Don Quixote novels and so forth. It gets really weird.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to read all the big ones, Count of Monte Cristo, all the things. I want to read everything I can, as long as I enjoy it. And I'll be honest if I don't enjoy something. But
and also definitely read the Satyricon, the one that I always try to throw some people. The Satyricon by Petronius. It's written in like the 3rd century BC.
Wasn't Mary Shelley's dad a feminist?
Mary Shelley's dad was a famous anarchist, and her mother did write
her mom was the feminist. Sorry, yeah.
Well, they both were like obviously they did hang out together for political reasons, right?
And then and then Percy Shelley came in as like, wanna get a little freaky, and then she's like,
Percy Shelley was also a bit of a radical at the time, so it's a very
Percy
interesting.
Shelley's kind of a dickhead, to be honest. He's kind of an asshole. I love
you can be an asshole and a radical. It does actually happen from time to time, right?
They actually go well together, believe it or not. So I mean, it's not shocking.
All right, but like the Satyricon by Petronius, written in the 3rd century CE, Roman story novel about a bunch of dudes hanging out in Asia Minor. The main character is cursed by Priapus and can't get an erection, and they need to solve that problem and get rid of that curse. And
isn't that Gravity Rainbow? Isn't that the plot of that book? Hold on a minute.
Yeah, I don't think anything can shock me after reading R. Scott Bakker's work. So,
like in Gravity's Rainbow, he gets an erection whenever like a V2 rocket is coming down, and the erection tells them where the rocket is coming down. That's very different.
That's wild.
But my point is with like Petronius, it's really fascinating. It has probably the first werewolf, like classic werewolf in like what you might call, commercial fiction and not just like mythology, because it was very much written as a satire at the time. And it has, a guy who turns into a wolf when the moon is full, right? And it has all kinds of other stuff, including like a really weird like 2 gay main characters who then end up in like a sort of like polyamorous situation with like at least one woman at some point. It's a weird thing, and it's like almost 2,000 years old at this point, and it goes places.
Frankenstein is a really good book.
It is,
though I find Victor Frankenstein to be super insufferable, and I do think she gets a little too much into the navel gazing, but fantastic book nonetheless.
I think it's amazing that centuries after the fact, people keep making the mistake of calling the monster Frankenstein, which is ultimately, in a meta sense, a big FU to Victor in universe, because he treats him like absolute dookie, only for everyone throughout time and space to treat him, to use Frankenstein's last name for his son. So ultimately, it's the biggest FU compliment in the world, that everyone remembers the monster as Frankenstein. So,
yeah, no, but so to talk about this Frankenstein, it's one of the things that Brian Merchant makes in Blood and the Machine, is that because of like Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and her dad's involvement once again in the Luddite uprising, that you can read some of the experience sort of like of Luddism, basically, Luddite uprisings, also into Frankenstein in the way that you create a machine and then the machine sort of like rebels, which is there's some interesting things there that like living through like the early 19th century, like that moment of automation that leads to like a lot of stuff, right? How that impacts writers like Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley, famously with his like, I keep forgetting what the name of the poem is, but I think you remember, the one, right? Like the
Ozymandias.
No, it's not Ozymandias. It's the other one. Rise like lions, wake from slumber in unwankerable numbers.
I was gonna say,
Ye
I mean,
are
Ozymandias is one of my
ye
favorite
are many,
poems.
they are few. It's exactly about striking laborers that got gunned down by the state. It's a really good one.
I don't know. I have a problem with men who treat women like crap. I
would hope most men would,
but
clearly not.
Ozymandias is a banger. Just saying, it's great. So
but like I think it's interesting to see how the late 1700s, early 1800s, how they sort of impacted people like Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, Byron, obviously as well, somewhat involved in the whole thing. The Bronte sisters, like so much of these books that we are reading as classics and stuff like are basically tied to people living through like labor disputes and labor uprisings in a lot of ways, and that often kind of gets ignored. It's like, obviously there's a lot more in those books happening, right? They're not just writing like left-wing labor propaganda. That's not what I'm saying, but it is interesting to see how often it kind of gets ignored, even though, especially with like it's let me guess, it's one of the Bronte sisters, I keep forgetting which one, explicitly wrote a book about the Luddite uprising, which is the one that no one talks about anymore. But there is weird stuff happening there that we kind of ignore and go, oh, they're just like writing Regency romances. It's like that's not what Wuthering Heights is about, but it's also not what like Jane Eyre is about, and it's not what like A Tenant of Wildfell Hall is about. It's like none of these books are romances, right?
Although that's what the new movie seems like it's going to be for Wuthering Heights. It's going to only focus on that small portion of the book, at least from the trailers. So.
Sex sells.
Yeah, that's true. Even though it's mostly a story about revenge, and because half of the book, I'm like, Heathcliff, I'm on your side because everyone sucks, and then he's like, but I'm also gonna mess with the kids who have nothing to do with this, and I'm like, okay, well now you're just becoming a villain.
My problem with Wuthering Heights,
Yeah. It's kind of like the creature is like, oh, you fucked me, huh? You put me in, you made my existence and sucks, and you just bailed on me. I'm gonna fuck your life up, buddy. And then that's what he does.
my problem with Wuthering Heights is that at a formative young age, I watched the Heathcliff comics, and then I encountered Wuthering Heights, and in my head, Heathcliff is just this fat, obnoxious orange cat, and that makes reading Wuthering Heights really difficult. It's no one's fault. Like, it's just me being weird. It's like, wait, Heathcliff is not a cat. What's wrong?
Guys,
that was a worse experience when I read
Joe. It's
Lovecraft for the first time, and and then he talked about his cat, and it was jumping up and down, and I was like, oh, it's a cat. Oh, it all makes sense now. But at first, I was like, wow, this person is jumping weird on these counters.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, you know that it was actually Lovecraft's personal cat did have that name, and then he wrote that cat into a story, which is, sweet to write your cat into a story, but maybe do it with a cat that has like a less racist name.
Yeah. I think it is interesting though, because from what little I've seen of the whole thing with Lovecraft is he's genuinely xenophobic, in the idea that it doesn't seem like he actually hates those people. He's generally afraid of them because he doesn't understand them, which is still bad, but it's different.
I think China Mieville put it quite nicely when he called him this just giant ball of angst, paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That
It's
is
just
not
massive
wrong.
stress ball of angst, I think is how he described it. How he described Lovecraft. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Alex.
No, that is a very accurate description of Lovecraft, I would say.
Yeah, because like a lot of his letters is just like, ooh, New York. Like he was kind of whiny, to be honest. Like,
just imagine the moment that H.P. Lovecraft finds out that sushi is actually a thing.
Oh.
Oh no, the evil Asiatics have found a way to put the deep ones into food. We are so lost. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's I think like Robert E. Howard for one is a better storyteller than Lovecraft. He's also easier to read, I think.
Yeah, he's less long-winded, much more to the point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Howard is also insanely angst-ridden, right? Like all of them are.
Oh, for sure. I'm
in a different way, but yeah.
You should read.
He's also more angry. Like on the existentialist spectrum, Lovecraft is more on the Sartre side of things, and Howard is more on the Camus side of things, and I'm definitely more a Camus person. So, yeah, it's
that checks out. Yeah.
So between Howard's creations, I think Solomon Kane's the coolest. So.
Oh, no.
That's also the most racist one, though.
It is the most racist one. It's
for sure. Yeah,
worse than Conan was with some of the things he said that are said in there. So, but just as a character, I think Solomon's cooler.
Also, I love Puritans. I know I know they were kind of crazy, but I kind of love Puritans. You know, like just not like I'm like gonna be like a Puritan or anytime soon, but it's just like I love the aesthetic. You know, like
yeah, they got a cool vibe.
They're also just weird. You know, yeah. They're all paranoid about witches and stuff.
Thornell, there's a like really like the problem there is that for reasons I did read books on like the history of anti-Semitism and German weird national.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't bring up Lovecraft in that video.
Because I didn't have the time. No, my point is there is one of those like people that have really influenced like people like Himmler and stuff like Guido von List. No, I mean the other one. They're all insane. Those like early weird Nazi occultist people, and he wrote a book about the Sodom Apelings and the descent of man, because it's like you have the good Aryans, and the good Aryans, unfortunately, the women of the good Aryans, good Aryan women decided to have sex with Sodom Apelings. Don't ask. It's racist bullshit, is what it is, of course, and that led to to humans losing all their Aryan superpowers. So you need to have like an Aryan breeding program to bring back all the Aryan superpowers by getting rid of all the non-Aryan blood. And so it's insane, but I love the term, the Sodom Apelings, and the power of the electron is, I think, the title. It's insanely weird. And that's very much when you said like the whole like squid apes. I mean, yeah, that unfortunately people wrote actual like serious books about that, and unfortunately other people read those serious books and then started the SS about it. It's not a good thing.
Oh no, fuck. Hold on, let me go find the discussions. Damn you.
Well, Mitch, I agree with that. Generally, I agree with The Simpsons, but I'm not a Sartre fan.
Yeah, Sartre, I fucking hate Sartre, to be honest with you. Like,
I feel Existentialism is Humanism is a really good essay. That's the one that you really need to read. But yeah, Being a Nothingness is so fucking frustrating to read.
Nausea fucking sucks, to be honest. Like, it's boring as hell. It's just boring. It's just like, at least in The Stranger, the guy fucking murders somebody. Like, Hate to say that, but like, come on. Also, I just think that Camus a better writer than Sartre. Also, I missed out on The Matrix, which, you know what? That's not a bad thing because I don't really like The Matrix, but I'm probably going to get a 0 on The Matrix discussion, which, fuck. But you know what? I'll make it up by doing Blade Runner, so it'll be fine. I'm sure.
Oh, you mean for your science fiction class?
Yeah, my science fiction class. Sorry. Yeah.
All those moments will be lost in time.
Yep.
Like tears in rain.
In the rain. That is a really good movie.
Such a good movie.
It's probably like the best like thing someone has done with like Philip K. Dick's work, but I still think the best like Philip K. Dick adaptation is still A Scanner Darkly.
Yeah, because they use like all the weird technology to make it as weird as you can, which is important with that kind of book. And it's one of the most surreal,
and it also follows the book pretty closely.
Yeah, it's one of the most surreal and weird experiences for me. Is the audiobook for A Scanner Darkly.
Is that the one by Paul Giamatti? Did you get the one from Paul Giamatti?
I think it might be, but the point is that like in the middle of the book, right? When he's reading, I think it's Kant, right? And he's quoting like long passages of German philosophy, and the narrator, which may or may not be Paul Giamatti, is not fluent in German. And listening to the audiobook, and then he just switches into that German stuff, and you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then I start to realize that it's supposed to be German, but the narrator is absolutely not able to pronounce that. And I have read the relevant passages in Kant because I studied philosophy, right?
Which
it's such a surreal situation going like, I know what it should say. I know what it should sound like. This is very much, it sounds more like supposed satanic recordings that you play songs backwards, heavy metal records backwards, than it does like actual German philosophy at this point. It's really weird. It's a hell of a thing to spring on you if you like fall asleep while listening to an audiobook and suddenly Paul Giamatti is American quoting German philosophy at you. You don't want to wake up to that, is what I'm saying.
But kind of going back to Sartre and Camus, also Sartre was a tanky, so you know what? Fuck that guy. Honestly.
What does that mean? I'm a bit dumb.
Tanky. Oh, that just means it's basically like Holocaust denial, except you're saying it for Stalinism. And you're basically like, yo, Stalin kind of based. That's kind of what. That's kind of.
Okay.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's a bit more complex. It's a bit more complex.
But I'm trying to simplify it for a friend here.
It's a very specific sort of type of supposedly left-wing person online that believes that, you know, sending in the tanks to crush uprising against the Soviet Union was actually the correct thing to do. So that's where the term the sending in the tanks, that's where the term tanky comes from. And they're idiots, right? And I'm saying this as someone who's certainly more sympathetic to the Soviet project than Britain is, but like those people are idiots. And you don't want to argue with those people.
Oh no.
But yes, Sartre was less critical of the Soviet project than he could have been and should have been at a time when like other like left-wing thinkers had already figured out that it was not, you know, the promised land, right? We're talking like the 50s and 60s, and at that point, you know.
Also, if you are interested in existentialism but don't really want to go through the whole that period of existentialism and don't really want to go through the whole nausea or, you know, read all that crap, the book Existentialism at the Cafe is a very good book.
Oh yeah, the Existentialist, yeah.
Existentialist Cafe, yeah, that's a very good book. It describes all that in a very cohesive manner, I think, which is good because you know, I do think that should be known, even though you know, I wouldn't say I'm particularly sympathetic to Jean-Paul Sartre as an intellectual.
I think like the whole the existentialist movement, the existentialist sort of like thought process is really interesting and important in a lot of ways. And you have to kind of go back to like the 19th century to both like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard for that, right? That's where that sort of like it is like, if we assume that religion has kind of failed as a social project, I'm not going like, hey, atheism, but like as like a defining sort of like way of making sense of the world. Christianity has failed for the West, right? It's no longer the number one narrative, right? We have all these other options. Suddenly we need to figure out how to actually position ourselves as people in this weird places we find ourselves in. And that's sort of like where existentialism as a project makes sense. And I think that is really
Holy
good
shit.
and important. It just goes to like weird places. What?
Oh, sorry. I'm reading about Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre, and apparently they were accused of like sexual shenanigans, which doesn't really shock me. They were kind of free love before that was kind of a thing. But apparently the age of consent in France at the time of like the 1940s to like it was like 13. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That is insane. It's like pedophile city out there. But I digress.
It was 14 in Germany until at least like the 90s.
I haven't read DeLillo yet, Mitch. I've been kind of hesitant. I do want to read Libra at some point because I've had a recurring fascination with the JFK assassination since I was a kid. So I would like to read that. But
the fun thing about JFK assassinations is that there's like way more than you might think. No, Kennedy assassinations happen much more often.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, they happen a lot. No, but yeah, but
but yeah, you're right. White noise, yeah.
I've heard White Noise is pretty good, but I'm kind of hesitant with DeLillo because I'm really I'm always kind of wary of what the literary establishment says are great books, Even though I love Cormac McCarthy and he's been pretty well beloved by that same community, so it's probably not all bullshit.
I think it's the same thing as like with all of these, what I said earlier, with like important stuff. Like if you want to talk about contemporary American American literature, you kind of have to read a bit of Pynchon, a bit of DeLillo, a bit of McCarthy.
I like
and
Pynchon.
Fucking Infinite Jest.
I mean, I dig Pynchon though, because like Pynchon is just fucking weird. He just fucking goes for it.
Infinite Jest I bought and I have it sitting, but I'm not picking that up anytime soon because it's a big boy. So
it's a really good book. It's also like a really obnoxious book, and a lot of people who think it's a really good book are really obnoxious about it afterwards. But I did enjoy it. I think its portrayal of like drug addiction and drug recovery is really, really good and really depressing. Other stuff is just like also like really weird and out there, but it's a lot of intellectual masturbation. If you're into that kind of stuff, then Infinite Jest will certainly tickle you in all the right places, I guess.
It's kind of the same reason I've been kind of wary of like Jonathan Franzen. It just I'm not really wanting to read books about like white dudes, trying to get tail and angsting about getting older, because I'm already doing that. I don't want to fucking think. I don't want to read books about those type of people.
Well, Infinite Jest is not that book.
Well, that's good.
It's still about like a lot of white people.
At least with Pynchon, there's like weird drug stuff that's going on. So like there's something to keep you entertained.
Well, there's a lot of like weird drug stuff going on in Infinite Jest as well. Just to be clear.
Oh well. Oh, okay.
And you have your Quebecois wheelchair terrorists, which is a whole other thing. Like they're Quebecois separatists, les assassins des fauteuils roulants, which is like a sort of like rite of passage to join that specific terrorist organization. They need to have their legs amputated by having a train run over them, and then they're all in wheelchairs and they all fight the government. it's also pretty out there, is what I'm saying. It's interesting. I think I'm happy I've read it. I wouldn't call it the best thing ever written, and there's obviously a lot of like stuff wrong with fucking David Foster Wallace. Don't get me wrong, you know.
Yeah, he was a troubled
bad guy.
I was about to say he was a troubled guy, to say the least.
No, that too.
Oh well. But yeah, no, I'm always kind of wary of like the mainstream literary stuff, even though, you know, I've read a good bit of that, and some of it's pretty good, like, you know. But like I don't really like Philip Roth for that reason. Like, it's just like, dude, I already angst about getting older and, you know, women. Like, I really don't. I don't really want to read about those kind of people.
I did really enjoy The Plot Against America. That one I think was that one I felt was really good.
That one I'm so mixed on because like there's a lot of it that has aged scarily well, and I hate to admit it because I don't like Philip Roth. But at the same time, there's still like I'm not really a fan of that like Woody Allen kind of like Jewish neurotic thing, that whole trope of the neurotic Jew. I don't really like that, and you know Philip Roth just takes that and runs with it throughout his work. So I mean,
I suspect, and I can't speak on that because I'm obviously not a neurotic Jew from New York, but I suspect it is based in at least some level of reality.
I wish Joe were still here. He might be able to. Might be able to back us up.
But like, no, I did certainly enjoy is the wrong word. But like, The Plot Against America was really well sort of like structured in the way it kind of works out. And yes, there's like, you know, the neurosis and everything, but like the way it kind of creeps in, like the fascism kind of creeps in, and suddenly everyone is okay with it. Is you know.
It did teach me that like Charles Lindbergh, kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
fuck that guy.
Yeah, surprisingly, being a bad dad was not exactly the worst of his crimes.
Yes, very much so. Where the fuck? All right, it's fine in the mail, bastards. I'm multitasking while doing this chat here.
All right, it's like 11:30. I'm gonna leave you guys to it though, because
I was about to say I'm probably gonna wrap this up as well. So
yeah, I was probably gonna bail too soon, so it works out.
Perfect.
Yeah,
like I have a dentist appointment tomorrow morning to have like the stitches pulled from like the surgery from last week. So I should probably be somewhat you know, awake, sober, and prepared for that.
Well, okay. Well, that's kind of all we have for today. I don't know if we'll be back next week because, you know, this thing is always kind of up in the air. But if it is, we'll be back probably talking about more controversial stuff. Like we always
do. By then I'll have read Shadow Ticket.
Else.
And also I'll probably ask Raph about how Shadow Ticket was. So
even if you don't ask me, I will tell you.
Fair enough. But yeah, I have other things I'm hoping to do. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And well, until next time.
I certainly had fun.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Bye.
So
bye.
So end the stream and just sit awkwardly